high school. High school. Happy Valentine's Day and welcome to Arena Clash. This is the first games of League of Legends Spring 2019. My name is Stanley Greyheart Barker. My date for the night is Marit Chronicler Musen.
Yeah, very well done on the pronunciation there for you Brits. It's always a little bit rough, but I think you did an admirable job. Thank you. It's always nice when you have a Valentine's Day that the opposing person actually, knows and pronounces your name right. That's a good way to start.
It can only get worse from here on in. We're going to be bringing you a 2 best-of-3 series tonight. We have got the Preston Invincibles up against the Manchester Swarm first of all.
Yeah, and that is going to be quite an exciting game. Not necessarily for what we're going to see out of the two teams, but more importantly, the fact that the Manchester Swarm, I've had the pleasure of talking to them, and that's of course also the big appeal of these Belong gaming arenas, of the entire Arena Clash, is how well you get to know these teams, and the appeal of just having a group of friends who are together, sitting in a venue, and then show you hopefully some great League of Legends.
Yeah, absolutely. Manchester Swarm, they might be a friendly bunch, but they're also the underdogs going into this game against the Invincibles.
Yeah, they quite are. Just based off on ranking, I think it's safe to say that the Invincibles are very much the favourite. But let's be quite honest, we've seen upsets. I think with the skill difference between these two teams, we'll have to see quite a big upset. But I always love an underdog story, and the Manchester Swarm has already won my heart a little bit.
Well, they're going to be looking to replicate the sort of underdog story we got at the end of our last split, where we saw the Clyde Claymores going up against the Portsmouth Pirates and Plymouth Pirates. Portsmouth, definitely Portsmouth.
Yeah.
The Portsmouth Pirates, they found themselves 2-0 down, as the underdog team.
And then come back.
Reverse sweep, boom, 3-2, and there's your new champions.
Yeah, and that's imagine the pressure that you're under, because this was, if I'm not mistaken, you're at Insomnia, you finally made it throughout the entirety of the season, you're down 0-2, and still somehow you find a resolve, the tilt resistance to make that through to not only win one game but then win the second and let's be honest, if you win the first 2 games, the third one is going to be the easiest, because you're opposing the teams you're playing against going to be we had a 2-0 advantage and we just blew it. The mental game that you get from that must be frankly amazing.
We've got an opportunity now to have a little look at the tables as they've been drawn. All 20 teams are going to be in a Arena Clash Championship this year. First of all, Group 1, we can see there the Claymores, who we were just talking about, the Invincibles, who we'll be seeing tonight, as well as the Swarm, also the Spartans and Armada.
Yeah, and Spartans against Armada might be interesting as well, but like we said, Claymores last season, the winners, so they're looking to come back here and take it again with Avengers, looking to top that group. And then on the other end, Swarm starting off at the bottom there. Let's see whether or not they're actually going to end up there.
They'll certainly be hoping not. And we'll be seeing the Stratford Spartans against the Armada later on tonight as well. In Group 2, we're going to see the Pirates, the Lionhearts, Harrier Steelers, and Enigmas.
Yeah, and again, the big name here are the Pirates, because even though they were up 2-0 in the finals and didn't manage to just get the win in the previous season, let's be honest, they've been winning it for the 4 seasons before that. Just an incredibly strong team, and they're going to be so hungry for that win after having it just snatched away from them last season.
Group 3 is going to bring us the Arrows, the Hunters, the Vikings, Brawlers, and Centurions.
Yeah, and above all, I'm loving the theme of the names that all these Arena Clash teams have, right? It's a very common military theme, although Arrows is kind of out there in terms of when you compare them to the other ones.
Yeah. Green arrows at that, so a little bit of a Marvel theme running in. And we can have a look at Group 4. It's the final group here. It is the Smugglers, the Nighthawks, Saints, the Rams, and the Kestrels.
Yeah, and then here we see a little bit of a diversion from the... I wonder how this was done. I'm going to assume it's done on actual seeding, but looking at these names might as well be done thematically, how these groups were split up. Nighthawks, my personal favourite, but let's be honest, again here, I'm really curious to see how it's going to shape up over the course of these coming weeks and how these teams are going to show themselves, because there's always the question, because even though the Portsmouth Pirates, I think, are one of the teams we talk, they've won the 4 past seasons, they got finals last time, got up 2-0, but in general, there's so much change in these teams because, people come, people go, people move, and you're never certain to replicate the success that you might have had before.
Absolutely, there's change in the teams, change in the rosters, there's even change in the broadcast team. Here we are, we're coming in place of some fantastic casters who, unfortunately, we've managed to depose for now, but we're going to hopefully bring you more high-quality League of Legends gaming, and it's going to be getting started pretty soon. And as we get into the picks and bangs, we get a little look as well at the way that the game has developed, because as well, there's a lot of different things coming in. We'll be on the live patch of 9.3 with the hot fix. That means no Frostmancy.
And everyone is thankful for that. So on one side with the Preston Invincibles, like we said, clear favourite here. We got Niangi in the top lane. I'm going to assume they're all set properly here. So because we were looking at these teams, but it was a little bit unclear who was going to play what and where. So gonna assume that they're roughly in order, but if not, we'll see afterwards. Splaff, Alpha Chinchilla, and Jacko.
Yeah, Few is their reserve player. I don't think he's going to be coming in, certainly not in the first game. Over on Manchester Swarm, we've got Excal, Doodlebug, Lady de Grey, Adelstar, and Driolic, who will be looking to take down that Invincible lineup.
Yeah, and as I said before, I had the pleasure of talking to one of the players, Doodlebug of Manchester Swarm, and he told me that, part of the team is actually boyfriend and girlfriend who are spending their actual Valentine's Eve playing League of Legends for you guys and playing in this competition, which I think is great. They also do a medieval reenactment, on the weekends, which is like, that's a pretty baller way to spend, your weekends, like smashing actual swords against one another instead of what I do, which is just like sit behind a computer screen and like swing swords vertically.
Vertically?
Yeah.
Virtually?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, they probably do go vertical at some point. I mean, I imagine that is very true. We're going to be
I have a built-in excuse, so you can't keep me accountable for that.
We're coming into pick and bans. We are potentially going to get to see some prox picks, so if you see something completely surprising, there's a chance that is not going to be real. What we are seeing is a Blitzcrank ban. That's no proxy. That is not going to be on the Rift.
Yeah, Chinchilla is a big fan of that. He also likes the Morgana, so I'm wondering whether or not we're going to see... mind you, though, that the Manchester Swarm is the team on the left, and Preston Invincibles the team on the right.
Yes.
So Chinchilla on the Invincibles, loving that Blitzcrank. We also see the Cassiopeia, which is both well played by Splaff, but also just in general a really strong champion at the moment.
Alrighty, so Yasuo has been taking on the Rift. It's the bane of many people's existence, especially around about the gold, platinum, elos, where I've had a fair few games this season so far. Vi, champion that's going to be getting buffed fairly soon, due to come in, but not just yet, but still being taken away. Silas taken off the Rift, no hijacking today.
Yeah, indeed. Also, one of the lanes that, like, after his initial release didn't really make a splash, but then he got a little bit of buffs, and now he's in a place where he's fairly popular in pick and ban. And yeah, the Vi Axel is known for his Vi, I was told, and that is also an understandable. And Urgot just all around arguably the strongest top lane. Although today in LCK there was, there was one game where he was like not touched, but everything else just pick and ban because he has dodged all the nerfs so far, unlike stuff like Aatrox, like Cyan, that all have been repeatedly, like, not very, but like got little loft taps with the nerf hammer. He's still reigning supreme, so I don't mind that bad at all.
You speak about top laners, you speak about nerf hammer. We've got to bring up what's been going on in most recent patches with Frostmancy, taking that Frost Queen's claim, having the Kleptomancy as well, getting those procs, not taking any CS. One of the champions who can still abuse that slightly is Ezreal, and that has been picked up by the Preston Invincibles. Yeah.
To be fair, though, Ezreal also just arguably one of the strongest AD carries right now, up there with Lucian. Although we've seen with the crit changes, we've seen stuff like Sivir is a good example, although first picking it is very ambitious. But Caitlyn is come back as well. Jinx and Tristana, if you want to look a little bit further down the line. Like, the crit change have made a big splash there. Ezreal, though, has been very good for a while. And with the fresh there, I like that. Would not have minded an Alistar either, as that would give you a little bit more, built-in way of dealing with the Sivir spell shield. But Chinchilla, not necessarily known for his Alistar, so going with the fresh, a very good all-round pick, and that's a really safe lane you have there on the end of the Preston Invincibles.
Massively safe. You've got the Arcane Shift for Ezreal, you've got the Lantern there if he really does happen to get into trouble. You've also got that extra little bit of engage, which maybe you wouldn't have got from one of the other safer supports. Speaking of safer supports, Nami is locked in. Lady de Grey going to be taking this one alongside the Sivir for the Manchester Swarm.
Yeah, and the Nami, of course, able to harass quite well in lane, able to get some long-range disengage and engage if you aim it really well, but that tidal wave probably shouldn't hit once you use offensively here. And Sivir Nami lane, yeah, that's again also a safe lane, although arguably I'd say less safe, depends on the jungler that we're going to see picked up here from the Passion Invisible as well. And Idolstar going for the Malzahar, they're one of his favorite picks. I think the one he plays the most in general, and all around a strong lane dominant pick that comes with his own tax, where you're just kind of forced to buy a QSS at one point or another not to get surprised.
So much so his favourite that he decides to take it blind, despite the opportunity to swap over later on. Obviously wanting to avoid it coming through the second ban phase. In return, we're going to see Splaff picking up that Orianna. As you so rightly said, this is going to lead us to junglers and top laners. The bans are going to come through. Each team will get two. Where will that priority go?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it? Because with the Orianna pick up another save lane, so what we're seeing on the side of the Invincibles is just a very clear sign of we just want to pick save scaling champions. You know, Orianna, no slouch in the early game, but you're really a picker for those mid to late game team fights where you can go in for the big shockwaves. I'd like something to deliver that ball. Jarvan is something that we've seen come back recently that I wouldn't mind. Niangji loving that cannon in the top lane, so we see that getting bent down there. And the Shen as well, and the Shen I think is interesting because it does have some global pressure, and instead of picking up the Jarvan, they opt to ban it themselves. Second most played champion for XCOL, so I'm really wondering what jungle he's going to go for now.
There's a champion we haven't spoken about yet, but we do know that Driolik is somewhat known for a particular champion.
Yes, he is.
I don't want to say it. I really don't.
It is, in fact, Teemo. Once we took a look at his profile, although I assume based on how they're standing now, they are in pick and ban.
Yeah,
Doodlebug's going to be top lane. So then we're not going to see any of that. But yes, it is indeed Driolik who is exclusively play Teemo according to his online record. So whether or not that's actually the case remains to be seen. But Kazakh's ban away there from Jacko, and one of his most played. He also likes other aggressive junglers. He also plays some Billet Carthus, but not wanting to go for this, instead going for the Zinzo. I quite like that. Gives you a little bit of early game pressure instead of if you just pick exclusively scaling lanes, although I feel like as the Invincibles you're fairly confident in your mid to late game against a team like Swarm that is a little bit lower on an individual level, but then all of a sudden, talk about late game, we already did Sivir and now the Jax.
Yeah, you're going to have the Jax in, the On the Hunt is going to get popped by the Sivir, you're going to have a Jax running at your face, you're going to have a Sejuani ult thrown in on top of that. That is a pretty spicy engaged composition. On top of that there's the Malzahar ult as well. Just what are we going to look at from the top lane to counter this?
Well, you could go for something range, you could go for something like a Vlad, although that is, of course, you need to be comfortable in that matchup. You don't want to get there, don't want to get Jax. But I feel like Vlad is so safe at the moment that it would not surprise me to go for something like that. Instead, Niang also likes stuff like Fiora, and Fiora against Jax is, in my opinion, a really fun matchup to watch, but instead he's going for the Irelia, and although Irelia has been repeatedly nerfed, I'm really interested to see what Niangi can do with that here, whether or not he still has the ability to outplay Doodlebug, who is the strongest player on the end of Manchester Swarm, or whether or not the nerfs have proven to be enough and he's gonna just have kind of a rough go, because if Jax gets ahead, we all know what happens to your towers.
Do you think this is a skill matchup, the Jax and Irelia, or is this playing into one of the champions' favour?
I'd say it is. I think that earlier on, if you look back a couple of patches, then Irelia was just so overbearing that like Jax had to really make some magic happen to make that work. Yeah, in this case it actually was legitimate though, because let's be honest, she was a top priority in pick and ban. In this case though, I feel confident that Doodlebug is going to be able to take that lane, although he needs to be able to get through that early game. He needs to be able to, I think Jax, more so than the current state of the current iteration of Irelia, is really relying on that item. So once he hits those 1-2 items, once he hits the Triforce, once he hits the Sterix, then maybe. If he falls behind though, even in her less strong state, I feel like this is a really snowbally matchup that can go either way. If we get a good gank from Sejuani early on and Jax picks up 1 or 2 kills, able to pick up an XP or CS lead, then it's going to look really good. If he doesn't, if it happens the other way around, we know how top lane is when you're not playing tanks, right? Like if tanks, doesn't matter what you do because you're going to be useful. But if you have 2 carry top laners, then all of a sudden it becomes a lot more risky.
Quite often in the Belong Arena games, we do see teams that are somewhat more like you'd see in a solo queue rather than a full-on team composition. But actually, both teams have drafted fairly well-rounded compositions. We talked about the fact that the Invincibles were the favourites coming into the game. Do you feel like the draft that they've put together is going to really help them accelerate to their first win of the season?
I feel like what they've drafted here is a composition that is able to do well regardless of, even if they have some early game mistakes, which I don't expect to happen, but I like the draft from them because it's just very all-round. You have the early game Zinzo, he does very well into pretty much every jungler, Sejuani's going to outskill him eventually, but the same goes for the Orianna. Just get through the early game and you're good, and the level 2 ganks that Zin allows you to make can also help you get a top lane ahead. So the Irelia and the Zinzo a little bit more aggressive, though Irelia skills fine into the late game as well. And then you have the Ezreal and the Orianna that are just going to do amazingly no matter how far behind you are. On the other end of Swarm, the Nami I think is something that is the only pick that you don't really see in competitive, really more, as you say, of a solo queue style pick. The rest of the team comp, though, the Malzahar is always something where I'm a little bit... there is always pressure on the Malzahar play. It's like you need to get an advantage out of that champion in the early to mid game. Because late game, your opponent just buy Q assassins and you just don't do that much anymore. So is Swarm going to be able to pull it off, yes or no? That remains to be seen.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, even when, you're forcing players into spending 1,300 gold on QSS or taking a cleanse perhaps, I didn't check the summoner spells, but I think possibly I saw one of them in the game, maybe on the Orianna, but automatically you're almost gaining a small gold advantage just by taking that champion. But like you say, if it runs too late, then suddenly a Shockwave is going to be a little bit more than the Nevergrasp.
Yeah, exactly. And my main issue with that is that, yes, even if they pay that in case of an AD carry, like Azrael doesn't really want to build Mercury or Scimitar, because he is the usual items he wants to get to as soon as he can, so that he can actually do that burst that he's very famous for in the mid to late game. But the problem with that, to me, is that also relies on you getting other damage out of it, and the composition that they have doesn't have that much upfront damage, because they have the Sivir, they have the Jax, both of which, Sivir more extremely so, but Jax just needs items to do well. And then the Malzahar is going to do a lot of damage, but the Nami isn't really, and neither is the Sejuani. So if they fall behind, even if you have that suppression ultimate, like, is there going to be enough if there's no follow-up damage? I'm a little bit worried about that, because we see scaling on the side of the Swarm as well, but I feel like because they're inclined to going to be falling behind a little bit, are they even going to reach the point where the scaling is relevant?
Continuing on that theme, we've talked about the LCK a couple of times, obviously a region that didn't do especially well this time around for the first time in a very long time. However, they are the only region that we get to see playing on the most up-to-date patch like we are tonight. I didn't check up on today's results, but before today's games and the 5 or so games that have been played on this patch, Ezreal had something like a 19 KDA. It was just disgusting the way it had a 100% win rate in the games that had been played. And here we see it on the side of the favourites, and if it's able to get going in the way that you talk about it, potentially be able to kind of get that snowball going, like a Nunu coming down the lane, it's going to be pretty scary.
Yeah, indeed, the big snowball. I think that the problem with matchups like this is that the Swarm is already in a deficit just on the scale, the skill of their opponents, right? Like just on a sheer mechanical level, you look at the solo queue ranks, you're going to go, okay, so these players are probably going to make more mistakes than the Invincibles. Then what they draft is a composition that spreads a little bit between having to actually get an advantage early on, especially in that mid game, and not really allowing them, they can't really fall behind that much, because their disengage isn't that good, as right from the get-go here, it looks like we're going to have some action, Greyheart.
We are going to get into the action as Alpha Chinchilla walks forward looking for Lady Grey. Gonna throw out the hook. The flash is not used, and that is going to be first blood picked up in the first minute. Preston Invincibles already with a lead.
And we expected the Invincibles to take a lead. I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't expect it to be this soon, as they very easily walk in and get the first blood on Lady Grey that, as you say, didn't use anything in terms of summoners, so that's nice. At least also went for the exhaust, so they're really looking to just survive and get to the mid to late game here in this Manchester Swarm bot lane, with Jacko on the Halo Blade Zinza already picking up a kill, though has his boots before anything has really happened. That is quite painful to face, because Ixcal on the Sejuani with the Aftershock, she's done do great in the mid to late game, but she needs to farm up a little bit, right? Like, her ganks are going to be good, but you just need to get that. If Halo Blade Zinzao starts running away with the game this early on, I think you might be in a whole heap of trouble.
Yeah, of all the champions you could have given that first blood to, that is probably the worst case scenario for the Manchester Swarm. We're going to see Sejuani able to pick up her red buff easily enough, going to be looking to potentially impact the lanes, but it's going to be tough for her to have the same impact that Xin Zhao has already had.
Yeah, indeed. Also, look at this top lane where we see the Counter-Strike being used and a little bit of trade. This is nice for Doodlebug. And Nyanga actually going in really long here, but is confident in his ability with the Conqueror procs, able to eventually get the better hand of the trade. Also, the free caster means make a big difference there. And now all of a sudden, Doodlebug is really low, which makes any Xin Zhao ganks even more scary. And the same goes for Idol Star. Game has just started, but look at these health bars already.
Stun lands on the Doodlebug, but it's going to be the Counter-Strike. Niangi is finding himself in a little bit of trouble. The flash, but the turn away from Doodlebug means he's not going to be able to pick up the kill onto Niangi. That's just so unfortunate for the Manchester Swarm. Meanwhile, there's a lot of damage being put down. Alpha Chinchilla missing the flay, however. That's going to be the Q being thrown up by Drayolic trying to find damage. There is literally damage going down in every single lane, because mid lane is going low as well.
And so much action here right from get-go. Give Riven and Alpha Chinchilla not able to win the trade, even though they had the double level 2 advantage. That's quite something. Didn't want to overextend in the turret range there. And yes, how big would it have been for Doodlebug if he had gotten that early kill there? If he was able to build up an advantage already, and it's looking really dire for him now.
Fortunately for him, the Yankees flash is also down. Both of these top laners are running the teleport, so no ignite to get that extra little tick of damage.
Not yet, but I feel like if he moves forward again, if he goes for that cannon creep and the Yankees just at the ready, it might be an issue. Both junglers pathing towards this top side now, and it's Axcall that we're really going to be looking at for a bit of big wave getting built up here. And if Jacko goes for the counter gank, it's going to be absolutely terrible. And with that wave hitting the tower, no real opportunity, but they do get the position of Excalibur now, which means that Jacko has some intel that his opponent does not. But look at the ward there on the red buff, means that they have a general idea of where he is as well.
We talked about the potential skill matchup between the Jax and the Aurelia. Apart from that one small misplay from the Aurelia, which almost got herself killed, so far things are looking pretty good for the Yang. He was able to push himself up without any trouble, stopping the recall, getting the stun. Doodlebug consistently in danger. Top hat off the Penguin though, he's feeling happy.
Yeah, and that is going to cost more CS there for Doodlebug. Really nice interrupt there coming out from the Yangi, and it's little errors like these this early into the game that really might become a bigger and bigger problem. At the beginning with the first blood, it was already a 600 gold lead, but now it's already 1.3k, and I think it's only going to get worse with how much these lanes are getting bullied.
Oh, the max range hook was going to land there from Alpha Chinchilla, but we don't see any further damage. Instead, we keep transitioning to the top lane because these two top laners are just dueling for days. The stun is going to land. The Yangi's so very, very low, but Doodlebug unable to jump forward to get that final hit.
And Yanga keeps eating these tower shots, and Doodlebug is... You see how close he is. He really wants to pull the trigger, but he can't afford to, because if he falls behind as well, if he gets killed here, if Niangi picks up the kill and that lane is also going from bad to worse, then all of a sudden the fate of the Swarm is looking absolutely dire. Aether just got back in lane, but already looking... And look at Splaff, look at that double Doran's ring. He knows what he wants to do in this lane. He wants to build that advantage even further, and Preston Invincibles are playing without a care in the world.
They absolutely are, and Niangi knows that the counter-strike wasn't available from there from Doodlebug. He goes in again, just trying to get this kill, really wanting that solo kill to assert his dominance in lane.
And this is the thing, if you're behind on your Malzahar, like 25 CS at this point in the game already, it's just not looking very good.
There it is, that's the solo kill.
And that's what we were waiting for all this time. These stuns keep getting hit. Doodlebug is unable to dodge them. 11 CS difference, and Niangi picks up the kill there. And now it's just look at how well the Preston Invincibles are playing this, how extremely aggressive they're able to play without getting punished whatsoever. And this also comes back to the fact that Axcall has not really found an opportunity to gank yet. Sejuani in general, early gamer ganks are okay, but if your lanes are half health or have no mana, what are you going to do?
Yeah, the same can be said for Jacko, who hasn't really done too much since picking up that kill. He's currently soloing the Dragon, I believe. He's not really impacted the lanes. Excalibur, we saw him come up to the mid lane, but actually in the end it was Ideal Star taking anything but an ideal amount of damage from Splaff.
And to be quite honest though, the only thing that Jacko could really do here is, as we see them pick up the Dragon there, Mountain Dragon if I'm not mistaken, the only thing he can really do with how the lanes are currently standing is just invade Axcall and like invading a Sejuani. Is that something that you really want to do? I'm not entirely sure. Might want to go for that. Considering the insane level of priority those lanes just have had throughout this entire game. Adelstar constantly pushed into turret, Doodlebug constantly pushed into turret. There's just no way for Manchester Swarm to really match the prowess in lane here from the Preston Invincibles. I think Doodlebug not going to get out of there alive, buddy.
That was a level 6 Aurelia taking on a level 5 Jax and coming up the victor easy as you like. Meanwhile, here comes Excalibur. That's a level 4, so no ultimate available. The flash from Alpha Chinchilla is going to be enough to dash him away for now. Drell trying to put some damage down, but instead is going to get hit by the hook. The spell shield is now put down, but it's just a little too late. It's going to be the heal burned by Give Riven. It's going to be Jacko coming in for his first gank. The heal now pop. Drellick is trying to get himself away. The knockup onto Excalibur. That's going to be the 3-point strike landing. Now Alpha Chinchilla trying to get the hook. Lands it onto the Nami because Excalibur flashes away, and it's going to be Lady Grey also having to flash away. So many summoners burnt.
And finally a kill on the board for the Manchester Swarm. A little bit over-aggressive there from the Preston Invincibles. Lovely hook from Alpha Chinchilla though. Being able to like just hit that Civet is great. What we saw there was Jacko going in super aggressively, and these are the kind of things that, okay, the Preston Invincibles can get away with this a couple more times, but they shouldn't be keep doing this because it's just not necessary with how far ahead they are. But we see there also a little bit of overconfidence for Jacko. Just goes in, disregards the lantern, just flashes in, goes in for the kill, and then tanking the turret just a little bit too long, as we see How many turret shots has the Preston Invincibles tanked, like, with that team at this point? Like 10, 8 minutes in?
I mean, most of them have been from Niangi up in the top lane, but yeah, maybe just a few too many, but it's still leading to a 3,000 gold lead for Preston Invincibles. One of the things that is new to this season of Arena Clash that we haven't had before is the turret plating. So all of a sudden there's an extra amount of gold every time Orianna steps up to Malzahar's turret and just knocks it down. It's not just turret first blood, there's also all those platings that you can get as well. As another stun is going to land onto Doodlebug, he throws down the counter strike. He's not going to issue the Grandmaster's challenge just yet, he's trying to dash himself away, but Niangi is continuing this chase. He decides he's happy enough to zone Jax off this wave.
Yeah, and a level advantage, a Sheen advantage, no Phage yet available for Doodlebug, and even with that, as another stun hit, I don't think you're going to get away with this trade, buddy. 2 levels up, and
this time the Grandmaster's might is used, but it's just not mighty enough. It's going to be, yet again, Niangi now 3-0-1 on this Aurelia. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Excal still unable to find a significant pick.
And this is what we were talking about earlier. Once those first kills start falling, it's just going to go so rapidly here. We see Jacko posturing towards that bot side, but I don't even think the rest of the team really needs it. Here's a nice attempt at a gank though.
Nevergrass comes in, it's Ideal Star trying to lock down Splaff, who flashed himself away. He's got the Ignite ticking him down, but it's just not enough, even with all of the damage coming through from the Voidlings of Ideal Star, who burns both Flash, Ignite and Ultimate and still doesn't get the kill onto Orianna. Meanwhile, Jacko is back in the bot line trying to avenge his death from the last gank. Instead, he finds himself a bubble to the face.
And Manchester Storm not wanting to go, as Doodlebug just walks back into lane and immediately gets an ultimate right on top of that. The Blaze is not enough though.
Niangi.
If the stun hits here, Niangi, please be careful.
Niangi already threw down the Vanguard's edge, did very, very little with it. Doodlebug trying to find a counter kill, but Niangi now is just doing whatever he wants.
There's nothing you can do about the Rayla at this point in time, but as I was saying, that mid lane gank attempt, everything gets blown, and they don't want to take the risk of running into Jacko there. They don't want to push through that, even though they do have a control web on the brush, but they don't really have a vision beyond that, and they just don't dare. Then Jacko, like 5 to 10 seconds later, show up as in bot lane gank, and imagine if they just pushed on there on top of Splaff, would have gotten the kill on Idle Star, but now everything is blown, no kills picked up, and this gold lead is just going to keep on growing as we see double the CS in the mid lane, a huge advantage in the top lane with Niangi also having 3 kills up, so that's quite big as well. And then in the bot lane, it's also, that's actually relatively the lane that's going fairly well, which is surprising considering the fact that it's not the strongest lane, Sivir Nami. It's able to hold itself, but just Sivir in general, early on, it pushes well, and that's pretty much it. So they're using the fact that Give Riven is also playing a scaling champion, but even then, that much CS behind, when the rest of your team is also getting really manhandled in those lanes, makes it a lot rougher, and that's what leads to this insane gold advantage that we're seeing here at 10 minutes.
Yeah, forget a 0 CS strategy. Instead, we're going to see a Flame Horizon strategy coming out of the Preston Invincibles. As yet again, Niangi looks at the stun, doesn't quite manage to land it this time, as Doodlebug does manage to land a stun with the counter strike, but then finds himself being dived upon. This is Niangi with a 2-level advantage now in top lane.
Imagine once Niangi finishes that Triforce.
Ouch.
I don't want to be Doodlebug at that point in the lane, because he's getting dove left, right and center as is, let alone when that happens, as the stopwatch is used and the suppression is used, but it's not enough. And what do we see there?
We see a shutdown. There's a decent bit of gold going into the pocket of the Manchester Swarm. Jack specifically managing to take down the Niangi onto turret. Unfortunately, his mid laner Ideal Star not quite so lucky.
And Niangi, he eats so many tower shots in the end. He eats one too many, and the Preston Invincibles are playing without a care in the world as Splaff moves forward here again. No Ada Star available though, and Splaff still has the cleanse as well, so he doesn't even need to be that afraid of the Glacial Prison there. And with just a Cinderhulk finished, like, what is Axel really going to do?
Pretty much just save the turret for a brief moment, and that's about it. And now Jacko is just going to step into his jungle, use Smite, and just zone Excal away. He's already a level down on Jacko, and Doodlebug is throwing down the counter strike. He's going to really struggle in the top lane. Not entirely sure what he can do that against Aurelia. Not going down this time, and Excal keeping the turret alive, but just a little longer. Landing a knock up onto Splaff. Malzahar not quite close enough, as we see, unfortunately, a full-on Smithy of an ultimate from Excal,
who is 4 levels down Splaff. So even if that would have hit with Jacko in the vicinity, I'm not sure if that would have been enough. Niangi has not eaten enough turret shots this game. He says, I'm going to keep going. I'm just going to keep diving you, Doodlebug. Whether it's a good idea or not, I don't really care. Just going to keep continuously harassing. Is standing between a rock and a hard place now, although I don't know if Excal is that hard of a rock.
Oh, it's a 2v1, and it's going to be the Aurelia throwing down the Vanguard's edge, picking up 1 kill in the 2 versus 1, looking for the second as well. Niangi has got a Trinity Force completed, has got the double kill in the top lane, styling it out, easy as you like, but Malzahar is the next contender to approach.
turns out that Ixchel is not a very hard rock, and instead Niangi was stuck between
Maybe should have played Malphite.
Yeah, I know, right? We're stuck between a rock in a moderately soft place in this scenario where Excalibur just gets taken out. They just don't have the damage to chew through this Aurelia. Niangi doing an incredible job there, getting the 2v1, getting the turret, and it's just going from bad to worse for the Manchester Swarm. Lady the Grey, Jacko just runs in, picks her up. What can you even do at this point in time? The answer of the Gold lead being almost 8k here, nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Jacko feeling mightily audacious, deciding to go in, but unfortunately now we're going to see the Nemographs used just after the turret goes down. There's the command shockwave. There's the command delete of the opposition mid laner. One turret falls in the mid lane, another will soon fall in the bottom lane, and this is turning into a complete demolition.
And the best part about this is that turret plating has not fallen yet, so that means this is all pre-14 minutes.
So much gold.
The gold in the pockets of the Preston Invincibles is just insane. Look at the amount of gold that Splaff has. I don't know for how long he has not backed, but it looks like he should be having a lot more items than he currently has. But then you look at the clock and you wait, why does Irelia has a Triforce already at like 14 minutes?
And a recurve bow on top of that.
And a recurve bow and Mercury threads, even though she's laning against the Jax, and the answer is because Niangi can.
Yeah, Niangi can do pretty much whatever Niangi wants right now. So just talking there about the items, about the small things that are starting to get completed. No full item yet on the Orianna, but you've got to assume, given the amount of bounty on her head, she probably will be able to go back, complete what I imagine is a Luden's Echo, and then continue on from there.
Yeah, indeed. And there's one item power spikes. You have the Triforce, you have the Warriors and Shannon Zinzao, who is probably either going to go for a Black Cleaver, but I could see Jack go for a Triforce here as well.
Why not?
Do you really need the health? The answer is probably no. It doesn't matter that much what you do as Jacko, with how well fed the rest of your team is. Are we going to see another 1v2 here?
I've seen this play before. We're going to see the Vanguard's Edge thrown down. It's going to be Niangi picking up one. Guess what? It's another attempt at the double kill. The flash forward, and there it is. Niangi is getting all the style play. He wants to be the MVP of this game.
And he's doing a smashing job. 7-1-1, 800 gold bounty, 30 CS advantage. Not even the biggest advantage in the game, because that record goes to Splaff on the Orianna, who is showing here that he has a more than 10 CS per minute record. Doing a really great job there. And this is what we're talking about. Manchester Swarm, just on an individual level, are going to have a really hard time with the Preston Invincibles. And what this also means is that once a team like the Invincibles are ahead, they're going to be able to just relentlessly press those advantages. That's what you're really seeing here. The early game advantages, while still manageable, were kind of rough. And the Invincibles just immediately were able to just build and build and build upon them. Now you have a Sork, Pan, Boots, Splaff. Also finished the Oblivion Orb. Even though that power spike was nerfed, it's still quite scary, especially with a Luden's Echo and double Doran's Ring. I assume that, like we said, Jacko's going to go for a Triforce. Niangi's looking for his next item. I mean, Give Riven is the only one who, hasn't really hit his big item spikes yet, but doesn't really matter with how far the rest of the team is. 12k gold advantage here at 16 minutes for the Preston Invincibles, who are doing an amazing job of showing us just how good they are in this first game of the Belong Arena Clash.
Oh, there we go. We see the play into Hook, into Shockwave, and now Splaff is on a killing spree. 3-0-1 and 900 gold bounty on his head, and different people have different versions of what they think a Flame Horizon is, but at the very least there's almost 100 CS difference there between the Orianna and the Malzahar. Jacko goes in, he throws down the Crescent Sweep, trying to get a kill, taking turret shots. Seems to be Preston Invincible's favourite thing in the world, but there's a turret now missing that's not going to be able to throw any more turrets. Shots.
Jacko flashes in, gets suppressed on the turret. Nothing happens. Still doesn't die. Yeah, it's just not like at this point, let's be honest, the Preston Invincibles are just so far ahead that this tempo snowball that they have, almost 16 gold. Oh, I mean, okay, let's not exaggerate, shall we? It's 14 gold.
Yeah, come on.
14 and a half, sorry.
Pirates.
Yeah, no, at 16, it was 16 minutes though, so, but all jokes aside, are we going to get a Dancing Shelly here? I would not be surprised while Jacko is off doing a dragon. Unfortunately, no. Shelly does not live. Why not pick up an Ocean Drake while you're at it? Preston Invincibles just take every single objective on the map here. First inhibitor already goes down. I am quite sure that the rest is soon to follow.
Chronicler, state of the game, 17 minutes in. 2 Ocean Dragons, a Mountain Dragon, inhibitor down. A second inhibitor probably to fall very, very shortly. Surely at this point, Manchester Swarm are just thinking, what can we do different in Champ Select to turn around our fortunes in the next game?
But that is the real problem, is that I don't necessarily think it was a Champ Select thing, because what you saw there was, it wasn't even like,
big old Shockwave.
See the end of the Manchester Swarm in this game. with what I think is going to be the end here. Drellic is going to go in. Why not, Niangi? You've been tanking turret shots. Why not
go for a laser?
Yeah, exactly. As Splaff also takes a big hit there. I think the Manchester Swarm are kind of okay with this game ending now, as the second inhibitor is down. The rest slowly moves in, and there's enough minions here to easily end the game on the side of the Invincibles. But as you were asking, Greyheart, how are they gonna deal with this in the next Champions? Like, I don't know, because I don't even feel like it was a draft problem. It's just,
I agree.
What we saw there was individual level of skill, right? Doodlebug from minute 1 getting hit, Adelstar not able to get an impact against Splaff, consistently getting out CS, getting out pressured. Jacko had a couple of ganks, I guess, but he has a very low kill participation, which is not negative towards him, but more indicative of the game that we saw played. It just within the bot lane was actually the one where we talked about Drellic being a Teemo one trick. His Sivir quite commendable. Lady de Grey able to just survive in that lane. There wasn't that much jungle pressure, but still being able to go toe to toe in lane went very well for them. But even then, they were losing CS, and that's okay if you're a Sivir and the rest of your team is doing well. If the rest of your team is, carrying through to that mid to late game. But every single other lane was getting demolished as well. And then there's just not that much you can do as a team here. So if you're the Swarm going into the same tier, what do you look at? I gotta be honest, I'm not quite sure, because I feel like what you need to look at is not something that you can fix within a best of 3.
Yeah, I'd say go out and try something. I mean, you're a group of, you've said it yourself, they're a fairly close-knit group of friends. They've probably played a fair amount of ranked 5s. They've got to have tried something, some kind of, I hate to use the word, but cheese, the old Yi boosting strategy. Take a Lulu top. I know it doesn't work quite so well with the Spell Thief now, but, do something a little bit different, mix it up, and at least really bring it to the Invincibles, who took that game in 18 minutes to take our first streamed game of the Arena Clash for the Spring Split 2019.
And quite the performance, right out of the gates, just coming in swinging. Irelia top lane, as I said, quite enough. Doesn't matter if you're 9-1, you have a Triforce at, what was it, like 13, 14 minutes.
Far too early.
Yeah, far too early with the recurve bow. Don't even know the Tarbies, even though you're laning against the Jax because you're this far ahead. It just doesn't matter what you do. And that's also, we saw something. The Invisibles were having fun this game, right? Like the tower shots that were tanked. Jacko was just like, I'm just going to flash past every single turret. I don't care. I'm going to get suppressed. Doesn't matter. Just keep on going. And I'd love to see Swarm just go for their... I also love Invincibles to cut them a little bit of slack. Maybe don't ban that Vi. Just let Axel play it. Maybe let Drellic play the Teemo bot lane. I don't really, just give
I want to see the role swap.
Something.
I want to see the role swap. I want to see Doodlebug go to ADC. I want to see Drellic up in the top, take his Teemo, and absolutely obliterate Niangi. He can't land, all of those attacks if he's blinded.
All jokes
That's
aside,
what they need to change.
What I think is to be commended here is the fact that Manchester Swarm just keeps on playing, because getting demolished like this, although I imagine if you're coming into this game, you know that you're playing against opponents who is supposedly much better than you. You're a group of friends sitting together. It's not going to be as tilting as when you have this experience when you're just sitting at home alone playing solo queue. But just embrace that. Just try to have fun while playing it, and just the fact that they didn't give up. They kept trying to look for opportunities. They kept trying to make plays, and it didn't work. That's fine. But the fact that they gave it their all throughout the entirety is what really matters. When you're a team, when you're a fan of the Manchester Swarm, you can look at it and say, maybe these guys don't have the best performance in terms of how the game is played against them, but they do have heart, and that counts for something.
And at the end of the day, this isn't the only fixture they're going to play. It's not just a straight knockout. They've got a whole group. They've got 3 other teams in the group that they're going to be playing against in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
And you never know. You just, take this as a building step and then go out, find new strategies, things that work for you. And actually, that draft, like you say, it was a decent draft.
Yeah.
They didn't lose it in pick and ban. So go out, show a good performance against other teams, someone maybe who's not quite as invincible as Preston.
Yeah, because they really honour their name there with the
really
performance there. To be fair, though, they were really going all in that theme, as we said before. Like, the amount of turret shots and lasers being tanked at the end were, as a team, that it was quite invincible. So that was nice of them. If you're the Preston Invincibles going to the second game, you're just looking like, we can just draft what we did last time. Nice all-around draft. Maybe get a little bit of early game in the form of like a Zinzo. Get some hard engage like that with the fresh there. And then just play it out from there, because you don't really need to draft super lane dominant champions, I think, here as the Preston Invincibles, just with how well you're going to be laning against the Manchester Swarm. And as you say, as the Swarm bring out the cheese.
Yep, absolutely. We don't know a huge amount about Drellick outside of his love for Teemo in the top lane, but personally one of the things I'd like to see swapped out would be that Sivir. It wasn't like it was able to stay as safe as maybe you would like a Sivir to stay anyway, and didn't scale up to a point where it was going to be helpful. Look at something like a Lucian, or that's going to get that early game impact, maybe a Caitlyn to be a bit more oppressive.
Yeah, although I do feel like, again, the problem with something like a Caitlyn is although Lucian suffers a bit less from that, but even with that, if you fall behind with those, and I don't know if they feel comfortable just taking on the sheer 2v2 lane, if you don't have something like a Sivir Nami where barring ganks like Sivir is relatively safe due to the fact that Thresh doesn't have that much pressure on her, how are you going to feel that the pressure is on you to actually get that advantage early on? Because Caitlyn, Lucian, once they start to fall behind 1 or 2 kills, once they start to fall behind 20, 30 CS, they're really, like in case of Caitlyn, your power spike again gets delayed, just like with Sivir. Caitlyn, early game good, mid game with the crit changes, it's better than it was, but it's still, you're looking towards that late game, while with Lucian, once that early to mid game is gone, you're just not as good as a lot of the other carries.
That's a very good point, but at the same time, is this a team that's looking to push the late game?
Yeah. Probably not.
Yeah, maybe not. And, it's not like, in the final last time, when we saw the Claymores taking on the Pirates, that was a team who, in the words of one of our top analysts, they played for the late game. They sat back and said, you know what, we're going to go as late as we possibly need to. And then this team that's used to kind of stomping everybody, the Pirates, all of a sudden they're like, oh no, we're losing. We can't take this late game. And that's where the Claymores came back. I don't think that's what Swarm are going to be able to look to do. So that's kind of why, for me, I want to see something a bit more impactful early on. We'll see just what they decide to pick in the next pick ban phase.
That's why I want to see the Vi. Don't ban that Vi. Just give me the Jarvan. Jarvan is also Vi, like maybe after her buffs, is going to be more relevant in competitive play, but Vi, fairly one-dimensional. If you dodge the Q, it just doesn't do that much. Assault on Battery is nice, but that's pretty much the entire champion as you progress into the mid to late game. But the Jarvan is something that we've seen is a lot more popular, again, within the competitive scene. And I'm not talking about Ari, Zhonya's Hourglass support Jarvan, talking just Jarvan jungle, Jarvan top lane, something that we've seen Wunder pull out in the LEC as well. With Redemption as third item, which I thought was a nice little touch, like throwback to the Redemption Olaf.
And you know what's great about a Cataclysm or an Assault on Battery? You can't miss them like a Glacial Fissure.
Exactly.
So there you go. Targeted spells. That's what it's all about.
Straight ahead.
Let's
just
have Annie.
Press R, going. Yes, Annie support. I would be completely... like we say, just go with something fun, because I feel like if you just go for these straight up skill matchups again, as we said, it's just going to be incredibly rough for you as Manchester Swarm to just pull that through, as I'm sure we're going to be getting into game number 2 between these two teams soon, where we're going to see whether or not the Manchester Swarm can make this miracle play happen and come back in this best of 3, or whether or not the Preston Invincible are going to remain invincible, at least for this week.
Whichever of those we see, I'm sure we're going to get some good games and some big moments. Just a reminder as we wait to come into the picks and bans that, of course, you can check out everything that's happening with the Belong Arenas. You can go to belong.gg, where there's loads of information about all the different games that can be played at arenas, including the Arena Clash activities. This is the championship. This is where all of those top players are competing, but also there are there's the challengers, I think it is, and the underground as well.
Yeah, there's 2 more levels below this, which I think is quite cool. Like you see these players, and then even though there's some skewed matchups, it's still like, even if you're just getting started with League, you're like, oh, I go to the venue, I go to my local Belong Gaming Arena and I want to like try out stuff. This is not the only level of play. There's 2 levels below this, with especially underground, like they're designed to give new players a platform. If you want to get started, just give it a go. Just don't be afraid. Just see if there's other people in your area around the same skill level, and just give it a go.
And if you want to get into esports, you never know. You might find yourself in a year's time spending Valentine's Day with a very handsome Dutch guy. So, let's get ourselves into the picks and bans. The teams have swapped sides as they do in the Arena Clash. I believe it's coin toss for the first game. After that, it alternates as the best of 3 series progresses. The Aurelia taken off table. Doodlebug has no interest in playing against that one again today.
I can't blame him. The problem is Niangchi's just a scary top laner, because like the usual competitive top laners, even though they were like hit a little bit, Cyan, Aatrox, Urgot. Aatrox is fairly aggressive, but like especially Urgot, Cyan, like the classic top laners, maybe some top lane tanks, maybe even some Ornn if you want to get really crazy with your engage, although it's not quite as good anymore. Niang, he doesn't care. He plays Kennen, he plays Sylas, he plays Fiora. So Aurelia was right up his alley, but I feel like what I'm afraid of is that the Aurelia Ben wasn't the problem. It's just the way that Niangi plays and plays these hyper aggressive carry laners where once you get an advantage, you just completely strangle your opponent out of the game. And one of the champions that is usually able to weather that onslaught is the Sion. So the Preston Invincibles say, let's not give them the opportunity to go for that.
Second ban coming from Manchester Swarm is going to be Blitzcranker. That speaks a lot of a bot lane that really don't like to play against Mr. Grabby Hands.
No. And as we said, also one of the favorite champions from Alpha Chinchilla, and I feel like with the Manchester Swan playing the way, what's interesting though is about that game is that there was never an actual team fight when you think about it. There was never an actual 5v5.
I feel like we got one by the Nexus right at the end.
Yeah, okay, and we got some skirmishes, right? We got 2v2s, 1v3s that were
lots
on
of
one.
2v1s in top lane.
Yeah, exactly. That did not really work out the way that was intended. And what we see now from the Preston Invincibles, is just first pick that Zoe, go for something that is a little bit more aggressive. Zoe especially is so oppressive once she gets out. Once you get to that late game, the paddle stars that just come out of the portal jumps, you're like, what am I supposed to do with this? Once the Sleepy Trouble bubble hits, you know you're dead. What can you really do against that? And it's more aggressive as well, as opposed to Orianna, who's a little bit more of an all-round, a little bit of more mid-range, mid-game character. Just Zoe, once she gets ahead, which as we've seen so far, Splaff is able to do, it's just going to feel so terrible to be in the receiving end of.
Ideal Star had a hard enough time up against that Orianna. It's now got to go up against the Paddle Stars. Meanwhile, the Sylas is going to lock in. We get to see the newest champion coming onto the Rift, and you've got a completely changed bot lane for Manchester Swarm. Yeah,
what I like here is Braum is one of the very few champions who does, with the Unbreakable, at least mitigate what Zoe's doing. Maybe we're going to see Lissandra as well, but I don't think Aladil Stars really plays it, which is one of the issues here, because Lissandra is traditionally with Aftershock, it's just a really strong lane even after the mana nerfs on her Q. Just allows her to, she lanes relatively well, she roams well, she pushes well. It's just a very safe, good all-around lane. It doesn't really lose stuff to stuff. But if it's not in your champion pool, because that's also something, if you're a player who's a little bit newer, as we do see Divide pick up there, it's not banned this time. Axco is picking it up, and I'm excited about it. And yes, the Sylas we talk about, this is Niangi playing that in the top lane. The Sylas, also something that, although, like we said, initially not that popular, it's now been popping up in LCK, been very popular there, both in top and mid lane. And it just has a lot of utility in that late game. Is also scary if you can get ahead, which we're going to basically assume that Niangi does based on his performance last time. Once he gets ahead, he is so oppressive with the heal on his W, with the fact that he can steal away your ults and then skill better than you. It's just quite scary to face. We see the Kazakhstan there again. Jacko on the Xin Zhao had a good performance, but it wasn't totally out of this world, say what we saw from Niangi. But I feel like if they do give him the Kazakhs, which they then explicitly don't do, then we might see something similar.
Going back to the Sylas, I've made no secret about the fact that I feel like Riot is trying to make life hell for play-by-play casters with their last couple of champions. Not only do you not have a clue who Nico is half of the time, but keeping track of which ultimate Sylas he's got, it's going to make life interesting, especially when he gets the Super Mega Death Rocket and just throws that one down and explodes everybody. But to see that, we'd actually have to see the top laner actually interacting with the ADC for the first time in a couple of games.
Yeah, we see the Ezreal Ben there as well, and I love that. One of the champions that Sylas just isn't good against is Zoe, because getting a portal jump is about as useless as you can imagine. Sylas, what he's doing, he jumps in and he jumps out, he just doesn't do anything. But that's on the other end. What we do see here is Devi and Doodlebug going for that early game here. I'm hoping that is a jungle Twitch. I would very much love to see that, although Give Riven wouldn't surprise me if instead they went for the Twitch there, just to, spice it up a little bit. He does, as far as I know, not necessarily a champion that he plays, more about the Kate, the Lucian, as we saw last time, the Ezreal. And Jacko does love his Karthus. This is pre-9.4 where Karthus is going to get nerfed, with both the Lay Waste and the Requiem. This is unnerved Karthus, still quite strong in the jungle. And Jacko last time on the Xin Zhao, not necessarily the strong, he wasn't that oppressive. So instead, giving him a farm jungler and just letting him be an absolute menace starting level 6. I like that approach from the Invincibles.
This is a champion that pro players have called utterly ridiculous and broken at the moment. This is the champion who doesn't even need to gank, and just kind of walk around the jungle, farming up merrily, occasionally tapping the R button, boom, Requiem, dead.
And then late game, you get all these fun things where you can start off a team fight with just pressing R, and then all of a sudden the squishies of the opposing team are nowhere to be found. They need to go back to the fountain. Not even necessarily because they die. That can happen if you snowball, but just generally because they have like 30% of their health left. And then you just take another objective and you Karthus, so just press that lay waste button. And they go so rapidly.
And there's so little protection and sustain as well on the side of the Swarm. They've swapped out that Nami for a Braum now, so it's not really going to protect a huge amount when it comes to a Requiem dropping down on your head.
Indeed. What I do love, though, is that we do see a little bit more proactivity. The Jinx, not necessarily the strongest early game AD carry, but is very oppressive when she does get ahead. The Braum actually allows you to get ahead as well, and I do still love the Braum pick due to the fact that you at least somewhat mitigate the Zoe. If that's going to be enough, if that lane is going to go well against Twitch, I have to see to believe it. I feel like Twitch is one of the weaker AD carries right now, as opposed to Jinx, who has a little bit of a renaissance with the crit changes. Maybe Twitch is also hidden OP and we just haven't seen it yet. Will be quite something to see. I do feel like with the Braum, at least you have the chance of winning lane. If you hit the concussive blows into the chompers, then all of a sudden there are these opportunities, especially combined with a gank or a roam from your mid lane or jungler. If that doesn't happen, I think we're going to see a repeat of game number 1, because the early game from the Invincibles is even scarier now, and we see how fast early game, or late game rather, comes for them.
I mean, Twitch certainly not in the best of places perhaps for the early game, but if it does get going, it's going to lead people faster than the Yankees Aurelia.
Yeah, because spray and pray late game is just something that you do not want to deal with whatsoever. And to say, imagine a spray and pray and a Requiem being used synced. That's terrifying to me. That is
sponge at the exact moment that the Requiem ticks.
That is so much AoE damage that you just can't really play around. You can throw Braum in front of Twitch, but that doesn't even really do what you need it to do.
But for all of that to work, Preston Invincibles have got to get themselves into a position like they did in the last game where they're ahead. If they don't manage that, and if these changes in the pick ban phase from the Manchester Swarm work out, it could be a much better game for them.
I agree. I do feel like you said, the Braum specifically, as opposed to Nami, Braum does have an incredibly strong laning phase. The concussive blow passive is just so good. I also would love to see an invade, again, just because of this early game strength that you have with that Braum. Just because you need to try something here. Last time the cheese worked very well against you. Lady the Grey just immediately giving up first blood to Jacko. And this time there's no Xin Zhao on the enemy team. So maybe go for something cheesy, just invade, try to hit some concussive blows procs and make that work, and then go from there.
It's tricky though. I mean, do you really want to invade into a team with Thresh on its side, and a team who have already shown they're happy to move as 5 and quite possibly could be doing the same thing to you?
Probably not, but what else are you going to do? What else are you going to do, Greyhound? Because again, I think the Sylas top lane is going to be very oppressive. Though Olaf is something we haven't really touched upon. Olaf is, of course, in early game incredibly strong. The fact that you can just build Redemption on him when you play him in the jungle, just because Undertow and the passive that you get, where you get so much attack speed, the Ragnarok, just the core champion for the first 11, 10, 11 levels, is just incredibly strong, regardless of whether or not he has items. But then after that moment, he just kind of becomes not really the champion, which is kind of the issue. But maybe you can if you can go even or ahead with the Sylas here, then all of a sudden there's opportunities, because Sylas doesn't do that well when he's behind either.
That's true. I mean, one thing for the side of the Manchester Swarm is they're not exactly playing into a massively CC heavy team. I mean, okay, you've got the hooks and the box coming out of Thresh, you've got a Sleepy Trouble Bubble, but aside from that, I mean, just what is the Berserker's Rage really there to dodge out?
Yeah, good question. I mean, the Sylas knockback, or the little stun that he has, maybe. Just the fact that you can just straight up beeline it to Twitch, because Twitch is one of the carries that gets run down by an Olaf. If you do get into the position where Olaf can actually get to him, not die, hit an Undertow, then Twitch is basically dead, in the early to mid game, right? There's just nothing you can do about that. So maybe that's going to be an avenue here for the Manchester Swarm. What I just want to see up front is just Swarm not getting blown out in the first 5 to 10 minutes, because that is no matter what else happens, no matter what other avenues you might have with this team comp, it's just absolutely necessary to at least make it through the first 10 minutes without giving up first blood, giving up a lot of plates, and falling 20, 30, 40 CS behind.
The teams have swapped sides, the picks and bans are complete, and now we are going to see Manchester Swarm moving as 5. Preston Invincibles also looking for the 5, so that potential double invade that we were talking about, that meeting of these two mighty behemoths, might well happen.
Except they go for different sides. Completely miss one another. Yeah, just gonna see some warding probably go in there. This time no one is found by the hook of Alpha Chinchilla. Lady the Grey learned from the mistakes last time, just going in there. And Axcal on Vi is not something we've really talked about. I do feel like early on, once you hit that level 3, Axcal can actually reliably deal with Jacko if he's able to find him, but that also relies on the fact that he needs his lanes to have priority based on what happened last time. As we also didn't really talk about the Lissandra yet. I love that pickup because it was what I was talking about before. Able to roam well, able to deal well with the pressure that Zoe gives out. And if they can work on the back of that, if Idolstar can get some good roams, if Axcal can hit those assault batteries in the mid, because the mid game that we see here from the Swarm is incredibly good compared to the last time, as we do see some wards, and it looks like Jacko does actually want to go for his own blue buff here. And is he going to get surprised there when he goes in? Is he going to take the blast cone?
He might have taken a blast cone to his own doom. Just how quickly can the Swarm react to this? It's going to flash over the wall from Jacko. Meanwhile, the Invincibles are just going to continue taking this blue buff away. Jacko does have the smite available. I don't think he has a ward, though, to help him out here. It's going to be a smite wall, and it goes over in favour of Excal, but Niangi dashes forward, tries to get onto the Vi. That's going to be the dash away. The flash coming from Niangi. Splaff coming up as well. Hasn't got the Sleepy Trouble bubble, so Excal will be able to flash away from the Paddle Star, and that is going to be as big as a first blood for Manchester Swarm.
Indeed. Getting that early advantage, taking away the blue buff from Jacko, also already expanding his flash, is a great way to start this game. Complete opposite of what we saw last time, where they were just getting pushed out as soon as the game started. Doodlebug is a little bit low now with the Conqueror Olaf. Let's see whether or not without flash he can this time actually pressure Niang, because let's not forget the early levels on the Jax were actually quite close. It was up until the point where Niangi got that advantage that Doodlebug was just unable to do anything. And look at Niangi going in for a trader when he's down a level. That's a little bit overambitious there.
Certainly is. Doodlebug picks up his axes, charges in, trades back that damage. Remember, he has the flash and Niangi does not. At the end of all of that blue buff drama, it was Jacko and Niangi on the Invincibles left without their flash, whereas only Excal burned his for the Swarm. Meanwhile, Niangi dashes forward again, takes a bit more damage out of Doodlebug. Both of these champions now at level 2 and just trading equally.
The problem is, though, that Doodlebug is really low on mana already, does have the Corrupting Strike, but is he going to lose this all in right from the get-go?
Oh, the first blood comes in for the Olaf! Let's go, the Manchester Swarm!
And with a reckless swing, Doodlebug is able to pick up the first blood, and that's got to feel so good after that first game, where he did not get that first blood. He was so close multiple times, but this time he does get it. And getting ahead on the Olaf, it's really going to allow him to at least deal with the pressure from that Silas to maybe mitigate Niangi's impact on this game. And like you said, great start here from Manchester Swarm. This is what you want to see as a Manchester fan in the second game.
Oh, the hook is going to land. There's the Flare. Driolic in a bit of trouble. Flashes away with the Ignite on top. Lady the Grey as well in a little bit of trouble. Both of the bot lane of Manchester Swarm forced off of their turret. The Twitch having a good time. Bringing us back to the top lane, though. You've got Niangi, whose playstyle has been about as reckless as the name of the Fnatic ADC. And right now, he is paying for it, finding himself down in CS and down a kill.
And it looks like Niangi, he does not care, just eats those reckless swings, eats those undertows, and that's not really something that you can afford against an Olaf when you're not ahead of Silas, especially when you're a level down. And he is getting close to FH, has had his first back already. And Niangi, last time we really praised his aggressive playstyle. Feels like this time he needs to cool it a little bit, because especially if Axcal gets in there again, I don't think he can just all in the Olaf at this point in time. Olaf, the lower he gets, the more dangerous, the more scared you need to be. What isn't going well, though, on the side of the Manchester is this bot lane with Drolik being so low already, not really getting to do a whole lot of farming thanks to the pressure from Alpha Chinchilla and Give Riven.
13 CS down, only having the heal available. Meanwhile, on the top lane, we're going to see Excal coming in onto Niangi. Doesn't have the flash available, so not going to get anything, but that is going to be forcing the top laner away again. Niangi so far behind despite being even on CS.
And the teleport not being up this time is going to be huge, because Niangi last time, he's not behind the CS specifically because he was able to just teleport back to the top lane regardless of that kill. But now he's actually going to lose a wave. I'm not sure if Doodlebug is going to be able to, what he's going to do with the wave, as we don't have the camera on top of there. Maybe he's going to go for a freeze, but no, it looks like he's going to be pushing. So Niang is going to catch a bit of that wave, but if Doodlebug pushes fast enough here, and then he's going to deny at least some CS from Niangi, and that's really, once he gets an advantage, maybe they can leverage that to the rest of the map. Axcal has been farming very well, and this is also where we notice that Jacko is really suffering because of the lack of that blue buff. 11 CS behind, his first back he went to get boots and a talisman, and that's not nearly enough, and they were so close to interrupting that recall there.
Oh man, that was the stealthed up Twitch just about managing to get away. Give Riven so very lucky there.
Because imagine if he hadn't. Imagine if he got tagged by concussive blows. That everything.
I mean, the lantern was probably there, but that was a dicey old moment for the Rat.
And Adelstar this time able to not get killed early on, but it's the same issue that we saw before. Aftershock Lissandra is opting to go for the Ignite, and I would have loved to see a teleport here, because I feel like Adelstar just in a straight up 1v1, I don't see him killing Splaff. Exactly. No. Zoe, especially with the cleanse and the flash still up, is naturally quite able at adapting, at staying alive and avoiding these types of situations where she does get killed. And with the teleport, Adelstar could use the power of the Lissandra. Now level 6 gets hit by Doodlebug, and I would love to see an all-in here.
Well, he's certainly looking for it. Niangi dashing away this time. That's one of the first times we see Niangi dashing away rather than in. Meanwhile, though, I mean, just looking at the Manchester Swamp team, Lady Grey's got the Ignite, so I'm not entirely sure just what Adelstar managed to get for himself. Like you say, I mean, potentially is able to deal with Jacko if he comes in, but I don't know. I completely agree with you on this one, Chronicler. I think that it's perhaps not the optimal summer spell, but it is the optimal start to the game. However, despite that first blood, because of the CS leads that are being developed in the mid and bot lane, the gold leader swung back in favour of the Invincibles.
And this is key. A level up here for Axel does not hit the Q though, but Jacko is going to get taken low. But Splaff with the Sleepy Triple Double, is he going to stay alive long enough? The Pedal Star does not hit, and that might be huge.
This is huge. It looks like he's going to have a 3 versus 3 collapse in the top lane. Unfortunately, all we're seeing at the minute is what's happening in the bot lane. We want to see the fight as Vice trying to escape, but is getting caught by the turret. The recall is stopped. We're going to see the channel cancelled, unfortunately, as Excal dashes into the wall, dashes into a turret shot. Splaff picks up the kill. Meanwhile, we are seeing the continued duel. Now there's the play back. It's going to be Lady Grey trying to step away, taking so many shots from the Twitch. The Expander will put down a lot of damage, but here comes another trade. Look at the twin Ragnaroks. My god, 2 Olafs. Doodlebug flashes forward, just needs to land one more axe, and that's going to be a second kill onto Niangi, the hero from the last game, turning into the 0 of this one.
And Doodlebug is really giving it his all. He's putting the rest of his team right up on his back, trying to carry them to victory. Goes in after Jacko as well. Why not? And I wanted to go back to this because I love the idea from Excal there. You're a level up, you're stronger than Carfet at this point in time on the Vi. So Excal goes in, but they don't have the priority. Splaff rotates a lot faster, and the same goes for Niangi. But then there's Team of the Preston Invincibles kind of overextend. Splash goes on a very long chains, and Doodlebug is at this point in time still a lot stronger than Niangi. They use that well. He picks up another kill here, gets a bigger CS advantage, and I feel like it's really Doodlebug that we're looking to now to take this advantage, because Axcal, while he's able to stay ahead, has not hit level 6 yet. Once he does, those assault and battery gains are gonna have to be big, because he needs to. They need to find something more, because yes, Doodlebug being ahead is good, but it's not enough, because look at the opposing team. The Zoe, the Carfus, the Twitch. They need to take this tempo that they have now and leverage into something else.
So when Doodlebug and Excal start to look to try and get onto the back line, as we see a bit of damage coming down, the cleanse is used by Splaff trying to get himself away from Adelstar, and actually coming off worse in that trade. Who do you think we're going to see the Berserker's Rage and the Assault Battery channeled towards getting? Is it just pure and simply going to be Give Riven's Twitch?
Maybe. I don't think with just a BF sword, that's really what you're looking for, although this might be the Enter Lady Brigade there, and even with the flash gets taken down, heal's still available for Dre, like a little bit of a miscommunication. They can't really afford to give a BF sword Twitch more kills, but I don't think that's the point where you're really afraid of now. You just want to keep the Zoe down, you want to keep the Carfus down, because if Doodlebug goes bot side now, they need to make it so worth their while, as we see Dreylik probably getting ended there, and Alpha Chinchilla getting away with a sliver of health, because if Doodlebug leaves the lane now, then Niangi is going to just even up that advantage. Is going to get pushed, get a couple of plates, although this Glacial Print might be something here. If they're going to use it.
We go again in the top lane. The damage is coming through from Niangi, but he is losing every single trade. Dashes back in quite questionably. Doodlebug looking for more damage. Not quite going to land the last axe. Doodlebug is taken down with that final strike coming in from Silas. Meanwhile, we are going to see Adelstar just having to recall, and it's going to be the Requiem. It's going to be the kill. Jacko taking down one with that absolutely painfully irritating ultimate that Carfus has.
And Niangi, with the Glacial Tomb on himself, stays alive for long enough. His minions keep damaging Doodlebug. He just walks out, and Doodlebug goes in really, and the pressure is on him, right? It's completely understandable that he tries to go for it, because he wants that extra kill. He needs that extra oomph, but he just doesn't get it, as Niangi again goes in with half health and almost no mana. So Doodlebug has an opportunity, but that's what keeps happening here. Is like, you understand Doodlebug, he wants to get these plays, he wants to get those kills, as Lady Grey gets hooked again. and this has been the story of the bot lane. This is also why we see a 30 CS lead here for Give Riven, who's picked up the Berserker Greaves and is looking to go for an IE first.
I think we're really understanding just why this bot lane keeps on banning the Blitzcrank. It does not like dealing with hooks, and Alpha Chinchilla has been well and truly on point, landing flay after flay, hook after hook, and the damage coming out of Give Riven is just absolutely monstrous. Rat-a-tat-tat, the spray and pray takes down another. And maybe another as well. The flash is not going to be enough to get out of turret damage, I think.
There was a lantern there.
Yeah, not
and
so bad.
Give Riven said, you know, I might not be able to click on that because of minions. We're just gonna flash right out of there. All jokes aside, the expunge damage, I think, was not expected there from Drolik, who still does with the flash being alive. And this is what we saw the first game as well. Just Manchester Swarm, which I think is admirable, was able to delay the moment where they're just getting outlaned and outplayed in the early stages of the game. We do see Rift Herald being taken up pre-14 minutes. That's quite something you want to be looking for because of the plates. But Adelstar, 30 CS behind, might die here if he's not really careful. Pedestar hits, and it's hard to be excited about that when it's this. There's been so many times where Adelstar goes in 40 ults in and he's just not able to consistently make it work. Mountain Drake getting picked up there by Jacko, who has not had the biggest presence in the Karthus, but he uses Rec Room and picks up Drake, so what more else do you expect from a Karthus jungle?
I want to give credit to xCal though, picking up this Vi that so clearly wanted, I'd say, in the last game. How many objectives did the Manchester Swarm get in the last game? I don't remember a single one. Now there's a Rift Herald in the pocket of the Vi, maybe they can look to make something happen.
Just throw it somewhere, throw it to Doodlebug, you know, he needs legitimately, he needs the money, he needs to be more ahead so he can really get Niangi out of this game. Use the golds as he goes for an all-in. Is it going to be enough? Ragnarok against Ragnarok once again.
And at the moment, it is Silas that is running away. Dashes back in, though. Look at the amount of damage that champion has. Has shields for days as well. Niangi picks up a kill. Has equalized the kill score in the top lane. Ah, Doodlebug. Where are you, Doodlebug?
I knew when Silas was released that the heal on his W, that heals more the lower you are, was going to create situations like this, because Olaf is exactly the same. You see a low health Olaf and you're like, okay, I'm gonna take him down, and he starts auto attacking you and like, what is happening here? But the same goes for Silas. Niangi hits the skill shot as we see the rest of the team, the Manchester Swarm, having a very rough go. No Glacial Tomb available yet for Adelstar. He gets taken down there by Splath. And the same goes for Lady the Grey and Greyheart. It's not looking good here for Manchester Swarm.
Every time a Sleepy Trouble bubble lands, it's a dead Adelstar. Every time a hook lands, it's a dead Drolic or Lady the Grey. The CC that is coming in from the Preston Invincibles is so on point.
But more importantly, like I said before, I gotta give Manchester Swarm credit. They're looking a lot better than the first game. They were able to delay this point which I think we're going to see a repeat of game number 1, where Preston Invincibles have a lead with which they can just do whatever they feel like. I hope this time we don't see Jacko flashing past a couple of tourists, because this time he's playing Karthus, but who knows what they'll do. The gold lead, which we haven't talked about in quite a while, while it was even to slightly ahead for Manchester Swarm in the early game, is now very favourably 8k, a comfortable lead. There is another kill on Lady the Grey, and Splaff is just going to walk right out of that. I don't think xCal is, though.
Oh, xCal drops down the 2 versus 2, going in favour. Unsurprisingly at this point, are the Preston Invincibles yet again. A hook lands. Alpha Chinchilla absolutely on fire on this fresh. And there we are going to see yet another killer. Splaff goes 5-0-1 on the Luden's Echo Zoe.
And literally, in the time that it took from me to end my sentence and you to end yours, the 8k gold lead has turned into a 10k gold lead. Because that is just the speed with which this game progresses. More objectives getting picked up there, the mid lane turret falling, another kill, or double kill rather, in the bot lane for Give Riven and Alpha Chinchilla, and it's just a masterclass from the Preston Invincibles here. Early game looking good for the Swarm, but that when the backs starts happening, once the CS differences really start to matter, you see how big of a difference it makes.
Maritz, I was so glad to see the Jackson Aurelia get banned away, because it's given this wonderful matchup. Yet again, the Ragnarok is being propped by Niangi, who's going to try to go for the 2v1, having done this multiple times in the previous game. Now looking maybe to take down xCal. Give Riven here to make it a 2 versus 2, and it's going to be Alpha Chinchilla saying, let's have a 3v2 in favour of the Preston Invincibles. In goes Niangi. xCal struggles to dash away, throws down the mastery and says, later nerds, gets out of there.
And what are you going to do, Niangi? really nicely expecting the Q there from Axel. Just dodges out of the way, cool as a cucumber. And without Assault and Battery available for Axel, he can't really get the kill on Niangi, even with Doodlebug there. Now everyone is multiple levels up. It is just incredible what we see the Invincibles do here. I think we're just going to see a straight up snowball like we saw last time, the Mountain Drake. Make sure that those towers fall even faster. And in case you forgot, we did have a Rift Herald that was about to expire. So Axel says, you know, might as well throw it down somewhere, and who can blame him?
Yeah, it's a shame that they weren't able to do a little bit more than that. But meanwhile, Xcal still looking to potentially get some kind of capture. We're going to see the stun landing down onto Alpha Chinchilla. He's going to drop. No, he's not. Instead, it's going to be Xcal who goes down to give Riven. Alpha Chinchilla still alive. Lands the hook. Down goes the Twitch. The first death of the game for Alpha Chinchilla. Meanwhile, they're still deathless. Alpha Chinchilla is still deathless. It was Give Riven who had his first death. Doodlebug trying to chase him down, but the Thresh God lives.
And unbelievable that Thresh lives there. And Splaff now comes in, Requiem comes in, and I think this is going to be a very bad time. There is the Requiem hitting Doodlebug, who has almost no MR. You know, he has a cloak, and that's pretty much it. And that's not going to be nearly enough when a Splaff and Jacko are chasing you on the Zoe and Karthus. And even these little moments where you're like getting excited because Give Riven finally gets killed, Alpha Chinchilla somehow makes it still out of there. The Ignite tick's not enough. And it ends up with Doodlebug and Adelstar still dead.
205 on the Karthus, having picked up another kill there. 602 for the Zoe, 105 for the Thresh. These three players who have gone deathless in this game, and I'm pretty sure at least one of them went deathless in the last game as well.
And the Preston Invincibles, as we said before, just playing according to their name. Now Niangi's going to go for a 1v2 here. We saw him do it last time. Although Aurelia, of course, a little bit better at it, but he just doesn't care. There is the Glacial Fissure. Is there going to be enough Greyheart?
It's going to be Give Riven coming in on the side. He's stealthed up. He's throwing down the damage. Not quite enough to take down Lady the Grey, though. Niangi keeping himself alive yet again. Really having a good time on this Sylas.
I thought more would happen there. I saw you get excited, like Give Riven comes in on the Twitch. He's in stealth, and absolutely nothing happens because Manchester Swarm does back off this time.
I do have news for you, though. Alpha Chinchilla just missed a hook.
And that's the first.
That's one of the first I've seen this game. And it was on a static target as well. I'm not sure if there was vision on Adelstar's Lissandra, but at the very least he was standing still. Someone else who might as well be standing still is Drayolic. Look at the damage. There's the expunge. There's the kill. Give Riven. Spray and pray for days. Easy as you like. The Twitch is 7-1-1.
I was about to say, is this the comeback? Is Alpha Chinchilla going to stop missing hooks?
Don't call it a comeback.
I think it's a little bit early for that, or rather a little bit late. The gold lead is insurmountable. And there we go again. Alpha Chinchilla back to his usual business. And they're not going to win any 2v2 in this scenario. Even a 5v2 against how strong Give Riven is with the Renance and the Infinity Edge already finished. I don't know what you can do as the Manchester Swarm against the Preston Invincibles. Preston Invincibles just playing incredibly well. Again, credits to Manchester Swarm for they're not dropping their head. They just keep on going. They're not letting down. They keep looking for these opportunities. But how far behind they are currently, I don't think, unless one of the players just doesn't do anything. Jacko misses his R button completely, and they do a fountain dive. I don't see how Manchester Swarm is going to come back from this, but this might be a start.
Flash forward from Give Riven. He does manage to pick up 2 kills, but gets taken down himself. Xcal with his first kill of this game. Meanwhile, Lady Grey not quite able to land the damage onto who was that? That was the Zoe portal jumping forward. Splaff has been on fire in this game. 6-0-3. I mean, with the Orianna in the last game, almost sort of took a back seat in comparison to the Aurelia, but in this game just doing so many bits. Meanwhile, the Niangi goes in and just absolutely obliterates Lissandra.
Yeah, Adelstar did not have a Glacial Tomb, and Niangi somehow did, because that is new champion. That's right, that's released. Yep. Yeah, that's how Sylas works. Works very well. Their Sylas also completely built AP, and it looks like we might be having another sub 20 minutes
Someone
game
call
here.
Mozart, because the Requiem comes in, and it's going to be Lissandra taking down the
What is Lady the Grey doing there?
What's Niangi
Why
doing?
Are you there?
It's his favourite thing, taking turret shots, getting kills on the enemy support. 24 kills to 4. We're just approaching the 20-minute mark for the second game in a row. The Baron hasn't spawned yet.
And we might, this inhibitor is slower though, and again, gotta commend Manchester Swarm for the performance that they have in this game. After game number 1, it's easy to just look at that and like, oh, this is completely unsalvageable. But instead, they managed to hold on for the first 5 to 10 minutes, get the first blood as well, and there is the Super Mega Death Rocket!
That's what you want Happy Valentine's Day. Drayolic gets himself his first kill of the game. Hasn't even completed an item outside of those little booties. But Jinx has got a kill and is happy.
And that's all you can really wish for here as Drayolic, as you're almost 100 CS behind the enemy Twitch, who is sporting already a Renowned Hurricane, is looking to finish that second Zeal item. The Infinity Edge, Ixcal just walks into the brush, and that's going to be the end of that Adelstar. Tries to make something work here, but the rest of the team says, no, Adelstar, we're very happy that you're there, but we're not going to follow you.
I love the way Alpha Chinchilla just keeps taking these kills away from the Twitch. Says, no pentakill for you today. It's going to be a double kill though. Going over to the Twitch, looking for the triple. Doodlebug, he might cosplay as a Viking on the weekends, but right now his Viking is very dead. Going down to Jacko. It's going to be the Preston Invincibles pushing towards the base, looking to conclude this game around about the 21-minute mark. One Nexus turret already very low, but not as low as the Jinx, as the triple kill comes in for the Twitch. He will end the game 12, 2 and 4. The Preston Invincibles will take this series.
Don't speak too soon. Maybe no. Excal's gone as well. That's going to be another ace.
To clarify, they will definitely take this series. Preston Invincibles. Sometimes they've been the Preston Invisibles, as Give Riven has played the Twitch. But right now, one thing that is very visible is they are going to be looking to try and win this group because they looked phenomenal in this game against the Swarm.
I can't blame those little fibs when a team is looking as dominant as Preston Invincibles here. Again, I want to give the hats off to the Manchester Swarm because I feel like being in the Championship League in the first place, not giving up that, having already such a big improvement in the first game compared to, or in the second game compared to the first one, that's quite admirable. But on the other hand, credit where credit is due. Incredible how invincible the Preston squad looked there.
They were absolutely great, and a massive amount of love to everybody on the Swarm, especially Doodlebug, getting that exciting first blood in that game. That was wonderful.
The real story of these games, you wanted to root for the Olaf, you wanted the Undertow to hit, you wanted Niangi to get punished, which he did early on, and then he just kept doing Niangi things, and somehow it works out.
So the question really is, who's your MVP of this series? Quite a few people to pick from.
I'm going to go with Niangi.
Okay.
Again, even though he did fall behind early game here, his Aurelia performance speaks for itself, I think, while the Ezreal Give Riven would be the other, one you want to go for. Alpha Chinchilla. Everyone in the Invincibles is a good pick, but I'm going to go with him again because he did also draw so much attention, again, in the first and the second game, and even though he fell behind early on, he became still as much of a threat with the Sylas in the mid to late game, which is like in this game, 10 minutes 10 to 20, right? So we do that relatively late game. Just did incredibly well. And on the other hand, it's got to be Doodlebug. He tried so hard. He got so close.
But in the end, it didn't really matter.
No.
We are going to go to a short break before we come back for our next series, which will be between the Stratford Spartans and the
Armada.
Yes, of course, Plymouth Armada. That's going to be a cracking game that we're going to get to bring you very, very shortly. During the break, feel free to pop over to belong.gg and check out all the awesome stuff you can do at the Belong arenas across the country. We're going to be back to you fairly soon.
All I see is the dark, but when you come out I see the stars. There are so many stars, but when you shine you burn my heart and set me up in flames.
that you know I'm feeling some type of way. I wish I heard you say that maybe what I'm feeling isn't real and the ceiling is falling as my voice is calling for that feeling again. Watch me try to understand, but I can't possibly know. You make me feel alive. You make my lungs feel right.
We are back for the second series of our first night of League of Legends here at Arena Clash, and we have got some Echo-style Chrono Break tomfoolery coming your way, because we are going to be catching up with this second series live into its third game. It's currently standing at 1-1, and we're going to get to see, first of all, the decider between the Plymouth Armada and the Stratford Spartans, and then bounce back to see how we got to this situation, for those who are interested, getting to watch games 1 and 2, after seeing the winner in Game 3.
Indeed. Because Greyheart, the fact that the first match that we saw between Spawn and Invincibles was a little bit one-sided, that is very much not the case for the second best of 3 that we're getting into soon, as you say, the decider match already. So first map, after being comfortably won there by the Spartans, in the second game, Plymouth Armada out of nowhere just come back and take it and even up the score 1-1. So now the question for us is who's going to take the final game here, and then we're going to see what was the road here? How did they get there? And more importantly, what I'm really curious about is like what happened between those two games.
And you know what? Even knowing the result of those two games, knowing who, we'll talk a little bit about some of the picks and bangs that we've seen and explain why it's going to lead to some of the bans that we'll see in the third game of the series. But even knowing those results, especially Game 2, stick around to the very end, because that was an absolute barn raiser of a game.
Yeah, agreed. And we're not going to spoil anything. And I think we're not
going to spoil anything, says the guy who's already said he won both those games.
Oh, so did you?
No, I just said that it was 1-1.
But it ends up in a 1-1, right?
It certainly does, whichever way it goes. And we're going to get a little opportunity to look at the two teams who are contesting tonight between the Plymouth Armada and, of course, Stratford Spartans. First of all, the side of the Stratford Spartans, they are Egotistical, BZD Morton, Toby, SFM 95.8. That's going to be great fun to say over and over again. Sushi and Vuminati.
And on the other hand, Plymouth are Marta. We have 3 synapses, but let's just stick with the second part of his name. So Runner, it's Stuck, Sprinter, Bombarding, and Booster, as well as Elite Hazard, who will be subbing tonight. Or will be, rather, is the sub and will not be playing tonight. As far as we're aware.
Yeah, there's the opportunity they could come in. We'll find out soon as we get into the Champ Select and we get an opportunity to see just who's going to be getting locked in. And I believe that straight away we're going to be jumping into it, seeing who those first bans are coming through. Here we go. We're seeing the Stratford Spartans are going to get the first ban of the night up against, not against the Craighaven Kestrels, but up against the Plymouth Armada.
Indeed. And we're expecting to see Jinx banned here. We haven't really talked about that yet, but 100 and, if I remember correctly, exactly 109. There we go. Jinx plays first. 119 games of Jinx played by Runner. 119. Within this is just season 9.
Yeah, and it's worth saying that one of our substitutes we were talking about, their Synapse Booster is out, Elite Hazard is in, Lucian is out, and we're going to see a couple of other champions taken away. So far, full attention paid to those ADCs.
Indeed. A lot of focus being dropped on the bot lane here. And that also maybe gives some hints to the earlier games. It seems more importantly,
I'll throw it straight out there. If you follow us all the way to watching Game 2 later, then you'll get to see an APC at some point. So I have a feeling that we've seen a lot of AD carry bans leading to some of these pickups.
More importantly, Lucian, and of course, the Zed, I think, is the only thing that really comes out of the left field. The Jinx, Hogaben, like we said, made a lot of sense. We've played 120 games since the season started, which, if I remember correctly, is like 2 weeks. Then that's probably worth a ban. Lissandra just really strong at the moment, also being favoured there by Sprinter, just his most played champion in general, and just a really strong one with the Aftershock. And then Zed getting bent out of that's obviously a more specific target. Ben Zed not that well positioned in the meta at the moment, as we see the Sivir ban going out as well. And Sivir has really been one of the biggest benefactors of the 9.3 crit changes, right? Like the fact that these crit items that you can spike early now, like Sivir with 500 CS was like the dream. That's what you were aiming towards. And now, if you already have your Infinity Edge and like Azeel item, Rapid Fire Cannon, and Static Shiv, then all of a sudden you're feeling a lot stronger than you did previously.
If you get through to watching all these games with us today, you will understand why some of these bans are coming through. You'll also understand that this pick being taken now, I believe by the side of Plymouth Armada. Actually, I think that Spartans.
We have Spartans on the left.
Spartans are
and Armada on the other. There we go.
So short version, no spoilers, but it maybe, just maybe, the Plymouth Armada took the Deceiver in the last game and did a pretty good job with it.
Ooh, and the Kassadin. You might not know this, but we have some famous Kassadin players in the Benelux scene, where I hail from. Let me tell you, there was one player competitively.
To be honest, I'm just surprised you have famous players in the Benelux scene.
I mean, relatively, right? Like within the scene, but that's actually we have a lot of people in English leagues and in the LEC as well. I'll have you know, and in the I don't think we have players in the LCS like at the top of my head, but we have some players. A lot of Dutch players. I mean, they're amazing.
You know Denmark.
Yeah, Denmark's better, but like we're all right. Like we're smaller, flatter cousins from Denmark, and taller. Naturally.
Flatter and taller.
Yeah, like the country is flat, but the people are tall. Like it's the only tall thing in the country. We don't really have anything else. But the point is, his Kassadin was absolutely devastating. Like without it, he still has a 95%. He lost one game with it, which was like last week, so everyone was like up in arms. But on Kassadin, once he hit level 16, or just in general, when he locked in Kassadin, he had never lost a game in like over the years of a 2.5 competitive career. We're completely glossing over the fact that like Ivan is getting picked up here, but I really want to talk about this Kassadin.
You want to talk about the Kassadin, but I want to talk about the Ivan, because earlier on we were talking about placeholders and how if a team were to pick someone completely outrageous, we'd know that it was going to be a placeholder. And I said, tell them to pick Ivan, and you're like, no, Ivan is relevant. It can be picked. And you've only been right about it. God. Damn you, Marius.
The thing with Ivan is, and I feel like this is a change that we're going to see for a lot more junglers as the jungle changes like maybe start to take place more. I feel like this is something that you see happening in solo queue, for example. We're going to see more and more on the higher level as well. Something that also top laners have started to do, and junglers are going to need to do just for want of money. It's like the Redemption Olaf, right? Ivan, Redemption on what was called Jarvan 4 in the top lane. Like, these kind of things happen because just junglers have been repeatedly nerfed with the XP nerfs. Ivan kind of evades all of that because he doesn't need levels necessarily. Like, he wants to get Daisy and he wants to get like a Redemption, and maybe an Athene's or something of the sort. Like, there's a couple of ways that you can go about it, but he just wants to be that. He can clear relatively quickly, especially as the level progresses, and he just has a presence regardless of is he ahead, does he have the levels, does he have the XP. While something like a Xin Zhao was really relying on an aggressive early game presence to get ahead and then snowball that lead into like a level and a gold lead, and then make his presence felt throughout not just the earliest of early games, especially with Halo Blades, but like throughout the mid game as well. But Ivan is he just comfortably fits into that more supportive style of jungler because he is effectively a support.
Chronicler, both teams have had their second round of bans, and Final Hour, Soul Shackles, Crescent Sweep and True Shot Barrage are all ultimates you will not be seeing in this game, stolen by Silas or otherwise, because they are all banned away. This is going to lead to the Caitlyn being locked in, so many AD carries taken away, and this is what Synapse is opting for in this game.
Yeah, and we didn't no Niangi in this game, so the Silas is a fairly typical pick, especially considering how new it is, so it hasn't really been ingrained in a lot of people's champions pools. The Caitlyn, though, we were talking about it before, and it is one of the biggest benefactors of the crit changes. We keep coming back to this because it's had such a big impact on the mecha, and this is something that I'm very surprised about, because as far as I know, we're playing on live, and as far as I know, Rakan on live is not a very good champion anymore. And I know that the Lovers bot lane is good, but I'm really wondering whether or not it's going to be enough here, and Itstock locks in the Echo jungle.
Yeah, I referenced Echo earlier on as we were coming live, and there was a reason for that. Both it and the Scion were picked up by Plymouth in their big win in the second, damn it, I've done it again, game of the series.
That's alright, I've already spoiled it. People will forgive
Everyone knows what's going on.
You still want to see how.
Yeah,
that's the real,
really do.
Because it, like both of the games are frankly amazing. But also, again, I keep coming back to so LeBlanc makes sense. Very strong laner. Kassadin, I feel like if you go standard, he does have the teleport. If he goes fleet forward, Kassadin, you just play really safe and you can avoid the Ivan ganks. Then if Sprinter knows that matchup well, you can do, but the roams from the LeBlanc are going to be really dangerous regardless. But again, that Rakan, I'm so surprised by that, because I feel like every single Rakan player I know saw the 9.3 change to Rakan, or 9.2 and 9.3. It was like, that we're not going to pick Rakan anymore. Like, he's just been nerfed too hard. His engage potential just isn't there anymore, and we're just going to drop him. But instead, it looks like they say, no, we're going to go for it regardless. And that is surprising to me.
So here's Rakan in this hand, Zyra in the other one. Rakan's gone like this. Where does Zyra land now that we've got all the crit changes?
I feel like Xayah will benefit similarly, but she won't benefit as much as, say, Caitlyn, or what we've seen from Sivir, as I feel like Xayah has been an AD carry that traditionally has just been a very good all-around AD carry, high survivability, good early game, but not something, say, like a Draven or a Lucian. Good mid-game, good late game. She's just a very well-rounded champion, especially because you always had the threat of picking her with that Rakan up. Even when Rakan or Xayah themselves separately weren't that popular, the combination of them was always quite good. So I'd say she's benefited as much as any other ADC, or relatively like on a lower level, but a Caitlyn being able to get for that Infinity Edge, Zeal Item, Power Spike, like right from the get-go, is just such a boon to the playstyle of that champion. And Caitlyn Braum facing that is just really scary, because if the Caitlyn gets ahead, which you might suspect to see, especially with how Rakan is now, I don't know how you're going to survive against that, because it's just so overbearing.
So looking at the team comps as a whole, which of these two teams do you feel have drafted their way to success in this Game 3 to decide the series?
Well, that's very rough, because I'd say Echo Jungle, not the biggest fan, but with the knowledge that we have, you might be inclined to say it's such a good comfort pick for it stuck. And I feel like the Sign, even with the nerfs in 9.3, is still just, he does what he needs to do, right? He skills, he builds health, he becomes a completely unstoppable monster that just knocks up your entire team, just doesn't die at one point or another. And I also feel like the previous games in its best of series really influenced the drafting here. And if you have a sense that like this opposing team is not going to play super aggressive, this opposing team is going to give us the opportunity to use these picks, then something like Kasayan makes a lot of sense, because you can just go for it, go for the Sign, go for the scaling, knowing that the opposing team isn't playing hyper aggressive and isn't gonna take a real quick care of you.
So one particular question in terms of the kind of the champions being picked up, looking at the World Championships as they just happened, as we're getting to the later stages and players like Caps and Rookie were really going off on the LeBlanc, it started to get to a point where if it wasn't banned out, teams were picking it away from those mid laners. All of a sudden, we've got a similar thing here. LeBlanc had a fantastic game in the last part of the series for Armada. All of a sudden now Spartans have taken it. This did leave the counter pick up, and the Kassadin is what's come in.
Yeah, agreed. I'm really curious about Ego's performance on this LeBlanc, because he is, as we said before, he's known for the Zed. That's why he was target banned. Also, Syndra is very good. But I feel like LeBlanc, especially if you play against a Kassadin who's going to play incredibly passive for the first levels, like I don't expect to see any action out of the mid lane whatsoever, unless, as we said, Ivan goes in for an early gank. It just becomes really hard for you to make an impact on that lane if your lane opponent really respects what the LeBlanc can do. And then the question is, can the ganks be made to work? Can you make the roams work? Can you shove in and then maybe go together for an invade with your Ivan? Because the CC and the lockdown there is, of course, incredibly scary. If Ivan hits a root or LeBlanc hits a root, then the follow-up is just immaculate. So that's really the question I'm wondering about, is Ego going to be able to make that mark on the lane? Maybe I'm underestimating him. He just solo kills the Kassadin like twice before 10 minutes, and then all of it doesn't matter. But suspecting that Sprinter plays it very defensively, as he is very well versed on the Kassadin, as we do see the footwork coming out there as well, then I expect that this is going to be a hard one coming out for Ego here, and a lot of pressure on the Spartans to make it work. And again, keep coming back, I want to see how well this Rakan pick does.
In both of our streamed games earlier, we did see some 5-man invades coming in. This time it looks like we are going to get a much more sort of standard neutral start, with each team defending the entrances to their jungles. We'll have a little look where those junglers are going to be starting, getting those early buffs.
Indeed, and hopefully no buff steals this time, as we remember how it went in the second game when poor Jacko got set so far back due to the fact that his blue buff got picked up. Scarf, that's like especially bad, because if there's one jungler who's reliant on the early blue buff in the current iteration of junglers, where you don't really have that much like AP carry junglers, you had like Talia previously, but she's not played anymore. Elise and Nidalee are fairly niche, and Karthus is then one of the only junglers remaining who really wants that blue buff. Didn't get it last time,
I'm
but
so
this time,
sad you didn't mention Evelynn.
Yeah, but Evelynn in competitive play, she's not very popular, is she?
No, it makes me sad.
You want her to be.
I still miss old Evelynn.
Ah, old Evelynn.
Oh,
If you got ahead, you just used your R on people and like you just completely got a shield that didn't allow anyone to kill you.
R.I.P. DFG.
Oh, man.
It's going to be a blue buff start here for it, stuck on the Echo. Meanwhile, Ivan just comfortably taking away his Grump, not his Grump, his Krugs.
Krugs, yeah.
Happy enough to do that. So both of the junglers starting on the bottom side of the map, and they might even meet each other.
It looks like they are both junglers pathing really aggressively, but this is not something you want to do. Still level 1 for Asui, and I'm quite surprised that we see this aggressive move this early.
Wow, that is flash for flash. The Ignite has been put down now, and Itstuck is in all sorts of trouble. He's going to try and dash himself away, and it's going to be the first blood coming in. Cookie Inferno getting the first kill of the game on the Xayah.
I like aggression. This was over-aggression coming out there from Itstuck, really going in so aggressively for the kill there. Kind of baited by the fact that Asui 2 was only level 1 there, but he had to back up the early rotation coming in there from Sashimi and Cookie Inferno, and then Runner and Bombarding were nowhere near, and then Itstuck really committed, and then eventually pulled out. I feel like if he'd just gone for the all in there and traded 1 for 1, got the first blood, then maybe that was worth it because he could have gotten his bot lane a little bit of an advantage. Now all of a sudden, Cookie Inferno already has the first kill. Like 3 minutes into this game. The first back is going to be a nightmare. Has the blue buff as well. And it's stuck. Echo is also a jungler that quite likes having access to mana in the early game because he's so reliant on his skills to clear.
Well, it certainly didn't look great for how am I saying that? Asui-tsu?
Yeah.
Asui-tsu, and wasn't looking good for him, but his flash was enough to get him away from the Echo, who in turn was completely caught out, giving away and just completely getting blinkers on as he went in with the Echo. As a root lands onto Runner, he's going to be able to step away comfortably on the Caitlyn.
And this is kind of what we expected, and I feel like Ego really needs to hit those bindings. He's already doing a lot of pressure, but again, the Kassadin with the Dark Seal, with the potion, is going to be able to sustain up Fleet Footwork as well, but Itstuck gets caught between the rock and a hard place. Once again, Egotistical goes in.
Oh, it's going to be the flash coming in from Egotistical. This time the binding is going to land. It's going to be a second kill onto Itstuck. He has dropped down 2 times in 3 minutes.
And that is a terrible way to start. He kills on the 2 people you wanted least. Like, if it was a kill on Aisutsui, you're still kind of, you know, that's not great. If it was a kill on Sashimi, that's not the worst, you know, you can work around it, but it's a kill on the 2 carries. Egotistical needs to get ahead on this LeBlanc, just picked up his first kill. Cookie Inferno on the Xayah picked up his first kill as well. And that is just going to make it so much harder. Unga Bunga on the unnerved Urgot, while Elite Hazard has a little bit more of a rough go on the side. He will still be doing fine. And already Moby Boots getting picked up there for Asui-tsu, who is indubitably just going to be an enormous ganking presence here in the mid game.
Yeah, the gank potential is absolutely solid on the tree as he's going to try and come in. And on the other side, it's not even going to be Lumberjack Sion to try and chop him down.
Good luck, Elite Hazard, because you need to find a tree first, and that's quite rough with how the lanes have been going so far. Both Elite Hazard and Sprinter getting pushed in permanently. That's because something in the case of both of these plays, you can't really fault them for it, because that's kind of what the champions are supposed to do, but it shows you that without any priority whatsoever in your mid and top lane, it's so easy for Itstuck to get collapsed on by Egotistical and by Unga Bunga, and that makes it so offensive to really do something. So that first kill definitely an overextension, but I feel like the second kill was just him not respecting the fact that his team just doesn't have the priority as Silent Thrower gets engaged on.
So Shimi dashes in, throws the Ignite down on the run. We're going to see Asui-tsu coming in, trying to get this kill on the Synapse Runner, who has got himself to safety. The gank comes to nothing, but the flash is burned on the Caitlyn.
That root from Asui-tsu a little bit really hit a minion very hard. Silent Runner being able to run it, does still have access to the heal though, and is able to stay relevant. Yes, it's his first back that I'm kind of worried about, especially considering the fact that I think Silent Runner has to back first here with how the lane is currently looking, as we see the control word getting cleared here. Nice visual control coming out from the Spartans, who are looking to keep control of this early game lead, because they do need to keep the lead on in this early to mid game, right? Because I feel like once the game gets a little bit later, it starts to get a lot scarier, with Synapse Runner scaling very well, with the Kassadin always being a threat no matter how far ahead you are. They want to close this game out nice and early, and with how it's looking currently, they're going to be able to do so. I hope that they can keep this up, because look at Sprinter, for example. He does have already a 10 CS lead, and that kind of negates the kill that Ego was able to pick up. Will have the Ignite relatively soon available, and I feel like there need to be some big plays being made there, because if Synapse Sprinter can just very, very comfortably farm up, get that Rod of Ages, and just get into that mid to late game, then all of a sudden it's looking very dire. But this is not a Spawn vs Invincible game. We're talking about the mid to late game, while the early game is still looking very much in the Spartans' their favor.
Yeah, it's a 1k gold lead for the Spartans. Merit, you talk about how at this point Rakan not really the best champion in the world, definitely dropped off considerably coming into this last couple of patches. However, it doesn't matter how bad the champion is if the player plays it well, and Tsushimi is so bold.
But we haven't seen the quickening yet, and that's what I'm really worried about. Because once that ultimate from Rakan comes out, then all of a sudden it becomes a whole lot harder, because it's been slowed so much in its taunt, in its approaching speed. And maybe Tsushimi's going to prove me wrong here, and he's still going to perform admirably. I wholeheartedly agree with you. In lane, they're doing absolutely fabulous at the moment, and I'm hoping that they keep it up with it as the first roams start happening, as the team fights start to break out, as we see that ISU2 is looking for maybe again on the mid lane, but Cyber Sprinter is not having any of it.
Unga Bunga has got the fear beyond death, but doesn't quite manage to pick up the kill onto Elite Hazard, who just runs himself to safety.
I thought he was going to get it there.
I did.
With
I
the
was
flash.
surprised
Yeah,
to see him not pull
definitely.
back.
Agreed. Elite Hazard able to get away with, for against Urgot purposes, a sliver of health. Really nice weight there, but it's stuck, but it doesn't matter if you can just go in and kill him right from the get-go. Bombarding had no business being that, dies with the flash still up as well. I feel like they wanted to set up a trap here, but a level 4 Echo against a level 7 LeBlanc, that's not looking good.
That's not the trap that you want. Meanwhile, it's stuck. He's going to get knocked up. He has been killed 2 times, and as he steps back under the turret, despite having that Ivan Bush to hide, and he is in danger of dropping for a 3rd time. The parallel convergence is there. Doesn't quite manage to land the stun onto Cookie Inferno, who does have to flash away, however, and that was quite nicely played from the Echo, who had a poor start.
Indeed, but it doesn't really, it just keeps them off the turret. They still get another plate there, and it relieves a little bit of the pressure. One thing about Ivan, which is one of the reasons why he hasn't been playing in a while as well, besides just general state of champion, is his dragons, or his early dragon taken is basically non-existent, right? Like, say, what we saw previously, if you have something like a Xin Zhao, if you have something aggressive that can go in and solo those dragons, that's really useful. An Infernal Drake, any under jungler would have probably asked Cookie Inferno, Tsushimi, stay in that lane, push it up one more wave, I'm going to solo that dragon. In this case, you just can't afford to do so. And again, I'm going to keep coming back to Sprinter and Elite Hazard. Elite Hazard hasn't really built up a deficit here, and with the Chain Vest probably going to do fine up until Unga Bunga finishes that Black Cleaver. And again, Sign of Sprinter getting close to the Rod of Ages, 20 CS up. He needs to be the carry here for the Plymouth Armada.
Teleport is coming in from Unga Bunga. The Urgot is going to join the fight as 3 members of Plymouth Armada start the Dragon up at equidistant, dashing forward, using the Mimic to get the extra distance. It's going to be Tsushimi going in onto the back with the quickness. It's going to be 2 kills for Xayah. The Infernal Dragon almost certainly going over to the Stratford Spartans. They get 2 kills. They get the Dragon. They get everything they want out of this trade.
It turns out if the quickness is nerfed, it doesn't matter when you just flash right on top of your opponent, as we saw Tsushimi do there. Were very well played by them. Nice call that Unga Bunga going in for the teleport. Stratford Spartans recognizing that they have the TP advantage and appropriately punishing the Plymouth Armada. That it's stuck again, as we see Runa having a very bad time here as he gets taken down by Cookie Inferno. He even throws some attacks at minions because he's like, you're dead already, I don't care.
Super deaded.
So it's stuck level 5 here, and this is one of the things what I feel like the jungle change really shine through, is like how long it can take you once you're behind to get to that level 6 to start farming up, because I don't see a way unless he picks up a double kill somewhere in the next couple of minutes for Instac to come back into this game, because he's just so far behind. It's going to be so incredibly hard for him to pull that off.
Alrighty, so as we get ourselves past the 10-minute mark, we can see a 3,500 gold lead for the Stratford Spartans in this deciding game of the best of 3 series against the Plymouth Armada. If you follow Freak on Twitter, all of last year, almost every day, you would have seen him tweeting LCK will, bold prediction, LCK will win Worlds. That didn't come off very well for him, but I have a friend and he tweets almost every day and says, when are we going to nerf the Demolish rune? And I've been watching it in the bot lane, and so much gold is going into the pockets of Cookie Inferno and Tsushimi, all because of that rune.
Agreed. I'm wondering whether or not you want to go for the nerf demolish approach as opposed to maybe nerfing the gold of the place. If you want, so there's a couple of things, right? Like, do you think it's a problem? I do think that snowballing really heavily is made very easily now, as we really see Tsushimi looking for another engage.
Again, the quickness comes in. There's the dash, there's the knock up. The taunts are all landing flash away from the Caitlyn, but she's not going to be able to help bombarding. He has got a flash himself. Even the ignite available if they want to try and turn this, but Cookie Inferno and Tsushimi have the higher health bars. They've even got the support of Ivan if they need it. They burn the flash out of Synapse Runner, and they don't burn any summoner spells themselves.
Yeah, and the nice use of the quickness that, again, finding these engages time and time again. So Sashimi proving me wrong in terms of how well he's still able to navigate this champion, which I like to see, because that means that players made a good call and will to learn. So that's good for me. More importantly, though, as you say, I was kind of surprised that I thought that Cookie Inferno was going to do more damage there than he actually did. We see as we get another gank to the bot lane here. This time, though, Engage does not hit.
Yeah, knock-up not quite landing on the bombarding, but we're going to see Asui sticking around, possibly looking for a first turret.
I feel like Asuitsu is one of the names that you think of just to mess up play-by-play casters, specifically. Try to find the combination of words that is just the most annoying to pronounce in a fast way when you talk about a team fight. Like egotistical, that's very easy, that's very straightforward, as is his dash right underneath the turret there.
Yeah, doesn't quite manage to take down either of the bot lane duo, and now we're going to see Itstuck joining the fight. That is going to be Cookie Inferno dashing himself away, actually using the Feather Storm there to get to safety. At the moment, things very much in Stratford Spartans' pocket. It's kind of their game to lose as it stands, but Plymouth Armada are not out of this by a long stretch.
Indeed, and again, we keep coming back to this. Itstuck is not going to be a relevant factor in the game, unless he picks up something big, unless he can hit a really big parallel convergence stun. But the damage currently just isn't there. We're looking at Elite Hazard, we're looking at Simon Sprinter, and we're looking at Runner, who in the long run is going to be fine, which is funny because his name is Runner, but more importantly, he needs to stand up to Cookie Inferno, as the fight in the top lane is actually going to get won there by Elite Hazard, but can he fish it off? The Castame's tried.
Unstoppable onslaught is not going to connect. Unga Bunga putting more damage down to Elite Hazard. He's already thrown the Fear Beyond Death. Unga Bunga lives, so does Elite Hazard, but here comes the Synapse Sprinter. He wants to rift walk right onto the face of Unga Bunga. He flashes, he rift walks, he picks up a kill. Now Egotistical is going to be here as well. Takes a massive chunk of damage from the Cassadin, who has well and truly come online. Forces the flash out of LeBlanc. Egotistical having to run for the hills, and it is a one fight at last for the Plymouth Armada.
And this is literally the worst person, I'm not misusing that, I know the English language, literally the worst person for that kill to go to. Synapse Sprinter there, picking up the kill on the Cassin. That's going to accelerate his, hopefully, his turnaround as he goes in. There is another engage and bombarding, but they are able to get out here, possibly. As I say, as both of them get taken down. And Cookie Inferno, man, he's proving me wrong. I was like, maybe not.
Are you just going to stop making predictions, Maritz?
Yeah. Because
you've literally cast a curse yourself there.
I know. I was like, I have faith in Silent Runner and Mabani to get out of there, but none of that. And let's be honest, really well performed, because it's really this bot lane where 7 out of the 8 kills for the Stratford Spartans have come from. It's this Lovers bot lane, Cookie Inferno doing an absolutely smashing job. Same goes for Sushimi, who are just not even with exclusively the help, although Asuitsu is really helping, because look at the 7 assists on him and the 7 kills in the bot lane. I feel like there's a little bit of a correlation there.
Here's another number for you, 2. That's the number of Infernal Dragons that have been picked up by the Stratford Spartans, and I'll tell you right now, a third one could be on the cards.
I feel like 2 is bad enough, to be quite honest with you. You're facing down a composition of this mid-game strength of Itstuck, who apparently keeps doing a Rift Herald while Unga Bunga sees him, but there's not really anyone
so dangerous
close enough here. And Silent Sprinter himself is quite scary, but he's not even level 11 yet. That's not the Cassadin that you're looking for. You're not quite ready for this. Are they really going to try and go hard on this Rift Herald? It looks like they are.
Fights galore. This could be one of the most crucial parts of this game, as we see Sprinter getting taken down by Egotistical. It's going to be LeBlanc slaying the Cassadin. Herald is doing damage to people, but not as much damage as Cookie Inferno. Xayah picking up another kill. A kill for her assist as well. Sion drops down. The Herald is going to go into the pocket of Unga Bunga, picking that one. Actually, no, it's going to be Sashimi. Gets his reward for 8 assists. He gets a kill. He gets himself a Rift Herald as well. Caitlyn trying to throw out on the headshots, but it's just not enough. 11-1 in kills, and again Sashimi dashing in, just not quite tagging onto bombarding. This time he's dashing back underneath the turret, and it's like watching the last series, because more turret shots coming in, but there's some tanky old players on the Stratford Spartans.
And what really boggles me here is the fact that Itstuck could have just dashed over the wall, could have just completely let it go, but they go for a fight when Synapse Sprinter is nowhere near his power spike, as we see the Rift Herald getting dropped there and just getting completely abandoned. Poor Shelly. We see Elite Hazard. Same goes for him, honestly, just in general, the comp of Plymouth Armada. Now he just needs to survive. Like, trying to contest the Rift Herald, sure, but especially considering the fact that Kuki, Inferno, and Shushimi were missing from the bot lane. You don't know where they are, and you're going to do a Rift Herald, get found out, and then keep going for it. And the third Inferno is going to spawn soon. And if that goes to the Spartans, I don't know what's going to happen to Plymouth Armada, because you can talk about level 16 casting all we want, but I don't think this game is going to hit level 16 if a 7-0 Xayah and a 3-0 LeBlanc are going to get 3 Infernal Dragons here.
And there's so much potential protection for them as well. It's one thing if you've got a cast in Rift walking onto the face of Xayah, but not only does she have the Feather Storm to kind of keep herself safe, not only has she got her own support there trying to knock up the Kassadin, she's also got Asui Su as well on the Ivern, just shielding her for days.
Yeah, indeed, and Redemption as well, just for good measure, in case that the shield isn't enough, in case that Zeke's Convergence doesn't just shred you as soon as you try to Rift walk in, as you said. What are you going to do? And it's just, I feel like that third Infernal Drake is one of the key points. Like, that is where you do want to contest, because you can't afford to lose it. But the Rift Herald, at this point in time, with how strong Kuki Inferno is, I'd say all of your outer turrets are just forfeited regardless. Like, you just can't hold on to those. As we see Elite Hazard going in here, look at that rotation coming out from the Stratford Spartans.
We've seen this fight before, the Fear Beyond Death once again is channeled. The unstoppable onslaught was stopped. Sion finding a way out though, managing to flash away as Tsushimi joins the top lane. There are now 5 members strong, closing in on this final outer turret of the Plymouth Armada base.
And they're bombarding and Synapse Runner, but do they really have anything to do here? I don't think they do. Bombarding, you can't stay there. Amstuck goes in.
Amstuck goes in, he goes out as well, using that Chrono Break, trying to get himself to safety. You saw how low Bombarding went. He's going to be no help to his team in this fight, but it does look like for now the Armada are just about managing to stop the Spartans.
And that's all they can really do for now. They need to wait. They need to hit those power spikes, but they're so far off as Silence Runner goes in here and Elite Hazard gets knocked up. And you can hear the desperation in my voice, because I don't want these things to happen, but Plymouth Armada plays so far forward, and they really need to respect how incredibly strong the Spartans are right now. 5k gold lead, 2 Infernal Drakes. Your Caitlyn doesn't even have an IE yet, and you're staring down the barrel of a Kuki Inferno with an Infinity Edge finished, and Silent Runner takes a ton of damage there again. And Igatico does use the Ignite there, which doesn't lead to anything, so that's a little bit of a window there. Also love the kill participation and KDA here from Asuitsu. Playing Ivan the way it should be 0-0 in 10.
Here we go again, this time a fight underneath this turret. This is going to be the Fear Beyond Death, not quite landing onto Elite Hazard. He's kept himself alive for most of this game, only dropping down the one time into the Undead General form, but the turret is not as lucky as the Scion. It goes down. Fortunately, Sprinter was putting a bit of damage down onto the mid lane turret himself.
Again, I feel like a broken record, but Sprinter is the one who needs to do it. He gets almost 50 CS up right now, goes for some harass on the mid lane turret. Unfortunately, plates are long gone, so no gold for him to be had there. But he just needs to hit level 16. He just needs to hit a next item. He just needs to hit as many items as he can, because Runner is so far behind Kuki Inferno, and not necessarily in terms of levels, but just in terms, or in CS, but just in terms of items. If we get a bounty though, because Plymouth Armada do have the opportunity, but this is what we were talking about before, this is huge. They can't afford to give this up. If they give this third Infernal over to the Stratford Spartans, that's going to be it, but it looks like...
Gone.
Yeah, it's...
There's no teleport on Elite Hazard, there's no kind of objection being made by the side of Plymouth Armada, and they give away that third dragon, and that is just going to massively boost the already huge amount of damage coming out of the Xayah, coming out of the LeBlanc. Yet again, Shushimi landing a storm. It's going to be Unga Bunga who gets his first kill of the game. Now Egotistical is on a rampage, taking down the Caitlyn, and with both the bot lane duo missing for the Plymouth Armada, Stratford Spartans will now lay siege to this turret.
And the only thing better than a 7-0 Xayah with 2 Infernals is a 7-0 Xayah with 3 Infernals and an Ardent Sensor on her Ivan, and a Rakan who is 1-0 in 10, and it's just looking like the snowball from the Stratford Spartans here is just insanely well executed here, and it really goes down to this bot lane and this Ivan pick that's working out exceptionally well for them. It's stuck. Also suffering due to the fact that this early on this team had no priority, and that's something that you then need to play around it. Instead, the Echo goes in deep, and this is a 20-minute inhibitor here for the Stratford Spartans, who are poised to win this best of 3 here. And Plymouth Armada, they're looking for opportunity. They still have this team that allows for these comebacks, but they need to show some signs of life.
Kassadin is being that Tryndamere you get in solo queue, where your inhibitor is falling, possibly even your Nexus, but he's like, nah mate, don't worry, I got this. He's pushed, he's taken 2 turrets. His team has lost an inhibitor, but is that a small gain at least for the side of Armada? Desperation
I
Baron.
love this. I love this Desperation Baron. Because who sees this coming? They can't do Baron. They have a Caitlyn. There's no Kaiser. There's no Shred.
Ivan's
There's
recalling.
absolutely nothing. Ivan's recalling. They don't know. Their base is going to get taken down by super minions there. And they're going to go for the Baron regardless. It's up to Sprinter to keep them away from here. Because I feel like something is fishy. Absolutely no one is showing the water. They just don't have the damage whatsoever, Greyheart.
It's been going for so long and only half damage down onto the Baron. Unga Bunga has joined the fight. There are so many low health bars. He's going to be able to throw the fear beyond death at whoever he wants. We're going to see Sprinter going down with the Cassidin gone. That is a big part of the damage in the team fight. Double kill as the second carry goes down. It's going to be Xayah taking 2. LeBlanc picks up 1 kill, going to make it 2 as well. Sorry, that's a triple kill going over to the Xayah. And it's not only the base in ruins for Plymouth Armada, it is their dreams of winning this series.
And that is where you say thank you for the Lisa Null chat and just take over the game completely. I love what Plymouth Armada did though. I feel like their comp was absolutely atrocious for it, which is why they're not able to pull it off. No, but listen, like a Caitlyn, no Shred, a Neko that is far behind. Cassidin isn't with them. But still, the call that they made there was the right one, because if they're able to you need to take big risk in a game like this. I love that they try to pull it off, and it's not an arrow. Just unfortunately, that comp isn't what you want for rushing a Baron. If you have a Kaiser there, then maybe you get away with it, but they just don't. And because of that, we're probably going to see the final push here. But I love the call from Armada. What I also love is just how incredibly well the Spartans are playing this game.
At 22 minutes, the Nexus turrets have dropped. The game seems to be coming to a close, but for now, the Spartans have been forced out of the base of Armada.
And this is also good. Spartans, even though they have a 9k gold lead, I feel like a back here is a little bit superfluous, but they really don't want to take a risk. They are also aware of the fact that the opposing team, if they get a good shutdown, if Cookie Inferno gets killed by, say, Silent Sprinter or Runner, if Egotistical gets killed, even though they haven't died this game yet, and there's, so much survivability on their team, but say that it does happen, then all of a sudden you put your opponent in a position where maybe they can win. Instead, the Spartans say, we're going to just play it as safe as we possibly can. We have so much power still ahead of us. Unga Bunga building towards the Righteous Glory. We see Asuitsu, we said before, the Ardent Sense is just doing work on Cookie Inferno, who's now finished the Static Shiv and is looking toward a rapid fire cannon as well, and is just going to become more and more dangerous because Runner is nowhere near his second item.
With both Nexus turrets down and super minions flooding into the bot side of the map, it's going to be all 5 members of the Spartans who have gone up to the top side. Egotistical dashing in, getting yet more damage from onto Synapse Runner, who uses his flash in the desperation to stay alive. Cassidin currently is in the bot lane trying to deal with the supers, and that is going to lead to not just one turret but a second turret being pushed. It's going to be stuck, dropping down for the 6th time this game. Echo unfortunately unable to chrono break out of this one. Here comes Sashimi. He charges in with the quickness bombard and gets taunted up. It is going to be the Scion dropping down as Elite hasn't tried to do everything he can in undead general form. Finally, Sashimi is going to die for the first time this game. 1-1 and 16. The bold effort coming in from the Rakan, but it is the Stratford Spartans who are now pushing down towards the Nexus. The turrets are already gone. The Spartans are shouting, "What is your profession?"
I told you Rakan isn't good anymore. Gets killed there. Absolutely terrible. All jokes aside, what a performance here from the Stratford Spartans. Incredible to see this type of performance, this type of dominance, after considering that this area is even up. And now the fun part of the night starts, because what we have the capability to do, what we're going to show you guys, is how do you reach this third game in a best of 3? Because if you see this game, this is the first game that you guys are seeing, right? And the first game that we are fully seeing. You see this game and you wonder, how was this not a 2-0? And that's the question that we're going to answer for you, because what a performance there from the Spartans. Like we talked about, early to mid game is really where their power lies. Well, they showed it.
Yeah, right now we have seen the Spartans have taken the series 2-1. They have concluded the victory that so many people thought they would get coming into this game. But we've got a treat for you. If you like good old quality League of Legends, you get to see what happened to lead us to that game 3. And I'm just gonna, grab my my trusty pocket watch and just rewind time a touch, and we'll be able to bring you into game 1 pretty sharp.
Yeah, I'd love to. And I love the pocket watch, man. It's very nice.
Who doesn't love a pocket watch?
Is
Apart
it
from most people.
I mean, I don't have a pocket. I have a normal watch, but it's like the pocket watch really gives you the, when you come to the UK.
Is this going to be a joke about how old I am?
No, not at all. No, I was being legitimate. But when you come to the UK as a Dutch guy, you're sort of raised with the idea, as we, if we go back to Pick a Man, with the idea of the UK being, this sophisticated, like people with pocket watches, people with vests, and then you move to London and you find that the UK is also just people shouting drunk in the streets at 4 in the afternoon. You know, it's like both those worlds. They don't collide here because we're not drunk and it's not 4 in the afternoon and we're on a pub.
I mean,
but like the
I don't want to do the
behind it-
Brits a disservice, but I got off the train today and the first thing I saw was a guy with crutches on both arms sprinting to get to the bus.
Oof.
So that was questionable.
That's a rough go.
Speaking of questionable, we're going to get to find out what's coming through from the bands. We saw the Jinx and the Zed being taken away in that last game that we just watched, but this is the first game of the series between the Spartans and Armada, and the bands are so far very much the same as what we saw later on.
The Jinx band, we're never going to see Cookies Infernos, we're never going to see Runners Jinx because, again, that Jinx is way too scary to deal with. The Urgot band is being used here, and this is really nice. I've never had this experience where I get to cast with the future in mind, which is quite cool. Now we can say, yeah, Plymouth or yeah, Spartans, you should have indeed kept that Urgot band because we saw what it did, and then for some reason it didn't in game number 3, and maybe we're going to see why in game number 2. It's like a fun movie where you've seen Memento, where you try to unravel all the clues. You're like, what does everything mean? That is what's happening here. As we see the Lysandra band there as well for Sprinter. And really curious to see what the final ban is going to be, and maybe another target ban, or is you going to ban something that we've seen in the final game? We'll see.
Quite possibly so. The Stratford Spartans are going to get their first pick up. The Lucian taken off the table, so no early game oppressive ADC down there for the Spartans. Meanwhile, we're going to have a little look and see what gets locked in its place. Like I say, we saw so many different things. I mean, I got an opportunity to have a little bit of a look at the second game. I saw some of the champions that performed well or maybe not so well in that game, and one of the champions that has been synonymous with every single game this series, but on different teams, the LeBlanc.
And that's interesting because I feel like LeBlanc within competitive play has had times where she's much more popular. At the moment, she's not really a high priority pick. You're looking more towards stuff like the Galio, which has the global presence, is just really good pushing power. The Lysandra, a lot more utility, like flax picks being used. We've seen mid lane Sion, we've seen mid lane Urgot being used relatively often, compared to a couple of years ago where flax picks were really big deal. Now everything's flax everywhere, and LeBlanc is really one of the true mid laners. You're never going to play LeBlanc top. You can play Victor or Cassiopeia. You can just pick him and just throw him up top if you don't really feel like it. Can't really do well with LeBlanc. And considering the performance that we've seen in the earlier game, I guess, in the later game, the LeBlanc does seem to be a comfort pick there for Ego, and I like that they go for it again. The Yorick is something that was banned away instead of the Urgot in the final game, and Yorick is something that I feel kind of got the Urgot treatment, but the champion has been reworked. The champion in its current state has generally been there for the last couple of months. But then, same with Urgot, it took a very long time for people to realize, wait, this champion is actually completely broken.
Yep. First game of the series, but the second time we see it tonight, we're going to see Sprinter picking the Kassadin into LeBlanc. Yorick, we see it banned away later. That might be a small clue as to what happens in this game.
Yes.
Perhaps Oonga has a rather solid performance. He's going to be up against the Sion. We just saw him playing the Urgot into that in the last game, and quite possibly might see the same results here. So Undead General not having the hottest of times on the Rift.
I think that Yorick is he feels so oppressive, right? With the maiden, with the ghouls. Once you get a Triforce, just where are my towers? Where is my health? What is happening? Why am I dead? And with Sion, the where am I dead part is going to be alleviated at least somewhat, but it's still not going to be a very fun matchup for you as you try to just hold on for dear life and just survive the continuous onslaught of undead minions that are thrown at you.
At least for Sion, if you're saying why am I dead, at least you can say, oh, what can I be doing while dead? That's some fun that can be had. Maybe they should pick the Karthus as well to go alongside that logic. But
just follow that theme.
One of the champions that I both hate and love the most is Leona. Love to play it, great fun, so much engage potential. Really hate to play it because I play against champions that don't deal with CC so well. But here it is. It's being picked up by Synapse Booster. It's almost certainly going to be the support for the Armada team.
I've heard you were a Yi player, so then I get that you don't
tell people that.
Yeah, I'm sure they still like you. Don't worry about it.
I'm not sure they liked me before, and now you've told them I play Yi.
But that's okay, because everyone bans Yi in solo queue anyway, unless you're a legitimately good player. But I know I'm not, as I'm sitting here instead of playing. As we see the Civi getting picked up there. Interesting ban, that is the Nami ban. That is something that is a comfort pick for Tsushima, not necessarily. Again, we get this a lot, where the Nami is a popular pick for a lot of players when they're just going solo duo queue. In competitive, the champion is not that strong, so it's not picked off nearly as often. See Caitlyn Morgana lane, and I see Caitlyn Morgana and I go like, oh, for the other lane. Leona is good, but Leona into Morgana isn't great, and Sivir, I would have really liked to see something that could help Sivir counter push, because Caitlyn Morgana is just going to perma-shove that wave in the bot lane. She's going to get those plates, and Sivir on her own, I don't think she's going to have enough presence in the lane to really make it work.
The bot lanes are so very different to what we just saw in that final game. We're going to see the Sivir and Leona taking on the Caitlyn or Morgana, just seeing who is able to gain that pressure. The jungler's also completely different, as we see Olaf, that we saw picked up earlier on in the top lane for the Swarm. It's now going to be played for Armada in the jungle, going up against Sejuani.
Yeah, the Olaf is early on, of course, with the Undertow. As we said before, Berserker's Rage just has a really good position against the Sejuani. You just need to leverage that early game. I do feel like, again, Plymouth Armada really like their scaling champions. They have a Sivir, they have a Kassadin, they have a Sion, none of which, I mean, Sivir arguably not against Caitlyn Morgana lane, are going to have priority in the lane, and are really going to give Olaf the opportunity, unless he, gets his ganks off really well, but also setting up early game ganks for a Kassadin. You're not very happy about that. Early game ganks for a Sign, maybe, but Yorick is quite scary, and if Sejuani comes, you're still kind of boned, so you need to be really careful about how you approach that, as I feel like, again, the Stratford Spartans go for a composition that has an okay late game, with, the Caitlyn late game is good, Sejuani skills well, and Yorick is just generally strong. But again, the LeBlanc in the mid game is just going to be, or the early and mid game, and the Caitlyn is just going to do so much work. And then on the other end, again, this is a really greedy draft from the Armada. And can you pull that off against a team where you're not necessarily sure that they're not going to punish you for that? I'd be inclined to say no.
Well, it feels like the theme of this particular series has been time. We're kind of going back in time to watch this particular game. We had an echo earlier on.
Like the Inception sound.
Yeah, is the top spills. Is the top spills. But if enough time is given to the Armada squad, the line that they've managed to draft here, it'll be so very strong. Having that Kassadin, having that Sivir able to just post 30 minutes if they stay even vaguely even.
If you hit 30 minutes and you're not 10k gold behind, you just run over your opponent. You have Sion, he never dies, especially not against the type of lineup. You have an Olaf who can get you to that late game. Olaf, of course, in the late game is basically just a running ward, but he tries his hardest in the early game, and then on the back of that, you're going to have to build an early lead. But like you say, the Ricochet, the Boomerang Blade, the Rift Walks then just become completely unmanageable for something like a LeBlanc that's just not going to hold well into the mid to late game. But again, say that we treat the game that we just saw as a first in the best of 3, right? Which we're gonna do for this. We're gonna go with a nice little thought experiment, because it's really hard to throw back to it instead of throwing forward to it, because then everything you sound is going to sound results oriented, right? Like you're going to say, I don't think this is a good idea because I know it's not going to work out in the future, which creates a really weird casting conundrum where you need to take both things into account at once. But to get to the point, I feel like generally as a first draft in a best of 3, what you do here as the Plymouth Armada is just really risky. And what you do on the other end is you draft a nice, more well-rounded team compositions, as we see here from the Spartans, that allows you to do well in both the early game, as in the mid game, as in the late game, as opposed to really hedging all your bets on that late game carry.
Chronicler, I think it'd be really great if we were getting trolled by our wonderful production team. If Jake's just gone, I'm just going to flip games 1 and 2 around. They think they know who's winning this one and sounding clever, but no. Someone who's not sounding clever is Itstuck. He got caught out in the last game, flashing forward a little bit greedily, but now it's actually going to be Aosu who is the one who drops down for first blood, and Itstuck makes it look good. Flashes into the wall, though, and that's going to be between the Ignite and the auto attacks. It's going to be Morgana who gets a kill. Cookie Inferno going very, very low as the boomerangs are flying. Runner is not quite able to pick up a kill, though.
And there was a lot of action. Again, how many, early... This exact same thing happened in the game we just saw, where Atsui Tsui pathed aggressively, so did Itstuck, and we already have a 3-for-3 ball in, the first 3 minutes of the game. And Bunga goes in there, and the Yorick train starts off right here, and it's just going to get worse and worse. A big CS lead already there for Unga Bunga in the top lane. The Olaf picking up the early kill, though, that's huge. I feel like on the Morgana, Sashimi is just not going to do a lot with it. If it was on Cookie Inferno instead, would have been really good. But now, with the kill on the Olaf, Itstuck can look to start snowballing a little bit. Maybe really use that presence, try to fight the Suitsui, try to get those skirmishes. As we see here, again, good to go for the Scuttlecrab here. Don't let him anywhere near. Sejuani has no business dueling with an Olaf early on. As we see the Predator boots also getting picked up for Itstuck, so maybe we're going to see an early gank there.
Able to make the most of that Keystone very, very early on. A quick recap of the summoner spells that were burnt in that that early gank in the bottom lane. It's going to be Flash still available for the Sejuani, but not for the Olaf. Meanwhile, we are going to see both flashes down for the ADC and support of the Spartans, whereas Armada only burn the Ignite and the heal.
So all in all, a lead there for Armada, which also relieves a lot of pressure on the side of Runner and Booster, so they can go in the lane a little bit more comfortably. And giving up an early kill, which didn't happen, Cookie Inferno did have to go back, right? So that gives up so much of your pressure that you have in this Morgana Caitlyn lane, which is also why we now see that there isn't really an advantage, which you'd like to see, where you can just keep pressing up. Unga Bunga does not touch the undertow there.
No, not quite. He used the Predator to come up into the top lane, but not going to be able to catch onto Unga Bunga, as Itstuck is going to have to just dash away. And so far the CS is staying fairly even across the board.
And we see that Cookie Inferno is looking for something here. Summer they're building up quite a big wave, but with not a lot of harass and not that much threat on Synapse, Booster and Runner, it's still relatively easy for them to push the lane back and keep it in kind of a comfortable position, and that means that Sivir is not missing any CS, as we can see here, and that just makes everything a whole lot harder. And you want to get out of there with a comfortable lead out of this lane as Cookie Inferno and Tsushima here, because that's really why you pick the Caitlyn Morgana lane. You want to get those plates, which they might be able to get, but with the early lead blown, or with the early advantage blown because of the fact that you had the 3v3 brawl, makes it just a whole lot harder.
And we saw it just a moment ago as that Dark Binding landed from Tsushima. Cookie Inferno was a split second away from popping that trap down in the right place, and here it is. That is the combo that you get when you have all of this crazy CC train coming in from Cookie Inferno and Tsushima.
And this is exactly what you want to do as this lane, and we see Cookie just continuously gonna keep on pushing, gonna go for the harass on the turret. Unga Bunga not really having a big CS lead here, but you don't really need to at this point in time as Yorick, as he gets the cage on Elite Hazard there, and that's a lot of harass. Good trade there coming out from Unga Bunga. Interesting here is that Synapse Sprinter is up 7 CS against Egotistical, who needs to make this LeBlanc pick work at one point or another, either wait for a gank from Suitsu or start roaming.
Alrighty, at the minute, Egotistical looking to land the chain. Look how low Runner is. He has not got the heal available still. The flash is up for the Armada bot lane, though, should they need to get out of dodge.
Which I don't think they need to, with Suitsui just not paying any attention to the bot lane whatsoever. And the threat of a counter engage is diminished with how low they currently are, but Tsushima can't really, and Cookie Inferno can't really go hyper aggressive when a binding gets landed, unless Synapse Runner somehow flubs the spell shield and gets hit and he's this low, then you can go in. But besides that, you don't really want to take that risk, especially since they do actually have quite good vision in the river, so you might feel inclined to do that. But Olaf, of course, with the Predator, can also just go for a lane gank.
There you go, them landing the double Mimic chains, throwing the Ignite down, not quite able to get that last take onto Sprint, who just about gets to safety, but it was so very close.
So close indeed. Sprinter is without flash now. Itstuck is only level 4. This is what we've been talking about a couple of times here, where just the XP changes are so big. Now he's level 5, but the fact that you're 2 levels down, Egotistical there, just makes it so much scarier. Silent Sprinter will teleport back to that lane, meaning that that summoner will not be available. And that might also be one of the reasons why as Cookie and Tsushima you don't want to overextend here. Say that there is still a deep ward that you missed. If Elite Hazard or Synapse Sprinter, who now does not have to teleport over, Elite Hazard gets down to that bot lane and you're that far overextended, you don't have to teleport on Unga Bunga, Egotistical doesn't even have teleport, then all of a sudden a good fight can be turned into a one-sided affair.
And that is the joy of having the double teleport composition, but on the other side of things we see having that double Ignite composition is the very reason that one of those teleports was burned, because Ego was able to go in there and force Sprinter out of lane.
Indeed. Synapse Runner, though, has been staying in his lane with no health and no mana for quite a long time, and it's showing. Has picked up the call as well. So really banking on that late game. Same goes for Synapse Sprinter, not specifically in his build, but just the fact that he's playing Kassadin. And now we do see that lead coming out there from Cookie Inferno, as the Maiden has been called for in the top lane. Unga Bunga is going to continuously keep pressing on that turret. Synapse Booster moving forward there a little bit, maybe trying to go for something, but not really finding opportunity to go for an engagement. Against the Black Shield, it's so difficult.
This top lane feels like it must be a less than fun time to be a Sion. It's very much so an island, and a very, very dull one at that.
Yeah, because you're just continuously getting harassed by ghosts. You're like, just let me farm. I want to scale up. I have a shield that does things. I want to get health, you know. I want just to kill minions.
But he's a
do my
tanky boy.
thing.
He's not afraid of no ghosts.
That's true. I don't know. I don't think Sion's afraid of anything. He's like, isn't his lore that he's like a completely Frankenstein version of like all kind of like evil generals that, you know, were just barely able to be created into this big scary monster that shouldn't be afraid of anything. Who should be afraid though is it's stuck if he goes in alone against a Yorick and a Sejuani, which he thankfully doesn't, as he just peacefully walks out of there. That is a painful cage there. Elite Hazard not dying, as you said, he is very tanky, but just the harassment on his health has proved to be quite something, and then Itstug needs to help him out, which relieves the pressure on the other lanes of the Plymouth Armada.
But as soon as you see that, you see Itstug going up, using that smite on the maiden to clear it out, and that just leads Asuitsui to go, you know what, I can go and start making pressure across the map.
Indeed. Itstug again, still in this top lane, just kind of hanging out there, needs to relieve the pressure of Elite Hazard, but now he's teleported back, so no need anymore. They do have a good idea of where he is, and it looks like we're going to have a lane gank here from the Stratford Spartans.
This is exactly what I was looking for from the Sejuani. Seeing the Olaf up top, looking to make a play in the bot lane. Unfortunately, there is no kind of push from the Sivir, from the Leona, and as such, it's just going to be a rotation to the Dragon from the Spartans.
And it is an ocean, a Cloud Dragon, and it's not the happiest of dragons, but it's still a dragon, so you're going to take it regardless. Might help you with some rotations.
Certainly not the 3 Infernals we saw earlier.
No, that was, let's be honest though, getting 3 Infernals in a row is kind of crazy in a game where your comp skills so incredibly well with Infernals.
How different do you think that game could have been for Armada if it hadn't have been the 3 Infernals in a row?
I think at one Infernal was already enough with how well they're playing. A Silence Boost that goes in here, that's a little bit ill-advised.
He's thrown down the Solar Flare, and we're seeing Synapse Runner trying to get as much damage down as possible, but here come the cavalry. The Spartan going to throw down the ultimate, going to catch on to Synapse Runner, who did not have the spell shield available. He's alive for a little while, but the Ignite is going to be enough to pick up LeBlanc, double kill, taking down both of the opposition's bot lane. Meanwhile, Itstug flashes himself over the wall, had a Blast Cone to get to safety as well, but Egotistical is now 2-0.
And we saw this earlier where Ego goes for a fairly calm laning phase, where the early game, you know, you're not expecting too much, but this is the mid-game team fights where these roams that we talked about before that you want to pull off of LeBlanc, he's been pulling them off admirably, just consistently able to help the rest of his team with these picks. And then once you get that lane advantage, then he's able to leverage that against Silent Sprinter, who currently has that just basically a free laning phase.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hefty CS lead for Sprinter, but on the other side, he's not made anywhere near the level of impact that we're seeing Egotistical do by his roams. But
can you expect that from a Kassadin? Because I think this is just what Silent Sprinter wants to do. I think the problem is what we saw previously with Plymouth Armada as well, is that it's not that Silent Sprinter isn't doing what he needs to be doing, because this is just what Kassadin does. He shoves when the opponent isn't there, and he farms up, and he wants to just get his levels, get his items. And Stratford Spartan's just reading into that, saying, yeah, sure, pick Kassadin, we're just going to roam. And I think that on the end of Egotistical, that is what they're doing very well. And that's what they need to just continuously keep doing, because that's how they win. I also feel like it's stuck on the Olaf. Very early Ragnarok there was already activated once he started running in, just using it for the movement speed there together with the Predator, means that you saw like how early he'd already lost it, and when against the Sejuani, you can't really afford to not have the Ragnarok available.
Elite Hazard definitely having a rough time of it. He hasn't died in the top lane, but every time we transition up there, we see Ungabunga bashing his spade down on top of the Undead General's head, and now he's got that Sheen proc as well. It's just going to do even more damage. We're going to see the Unstoppable Onslaught coming in from Elite Hazard. They're looking for the kill onto Ungabunga, but I think Elite Hazard has bitten off more than he can chew. He's going to drop down, but here comes the reinforcements. Just too late with the ultimate from the Sejuani to save Ungabunga, but it's going to be both the top laners going down, the junglers both live.
Elite Hazard, nice little step in front of his jungler there, saying, I'm already dead, I can take that Glacial Prison, no problem, buddy. Itstug gets away there. Also had the Ragnarok, so even if he would have hit, he would have been just fine. Now the question is, with Sign Up Sprinter nowhere near the mid lane, is Asuitsu going to go for an actual Rift? That doesn't look like it, decides that is a little bit too risky to his liking, so instead he just backs up, farms off his own jungle, and I would like to see a little bit more of a proactive approach here from the Spartans. They do have a lead, it's not that big, but they can really afford to make plays around this LeBlanc mid lane, which besides the one road on bot lane, they haven't done as much as I'd like to see.
700 gold is the lead as we come up to 13 minutes. We said that if we could change that 13 to a 30 and the teams were even, Armada would have a hell of a composition that had scaled up. We're a long, long way away from that still, but they're doing well to stay even at this point.
Exactly, because look at the bot lane, Sivers slightly ahead in CS if you count the procs that the Relic Shield has gotten there. Sprinter on Kassadin just straight up 30, almost 30 CS up. And then it's in the jungle, in the top lane, where it's like even or slightly behind, but just Plymouth Armada really holding their own, and that's all they need to do here. Like you said, I do feel like 3 Infernals was over the top, but a single Infernal would already change the dynamic of this game here, and I feel like Rift Herald might also do that. But I would really love to see a pre-14-minute Rift Herald, as they are so incredible. Not a lot of teams use those, but just getting those plates is just so big on those Rift Heralds. The money that you get from them is absolutely insane.
Oh, I thought we were going to see some plays as the casting was getting ganked there, but the pre-level 11 Synapse Sprinter is able to use his Flash and Rift Walk to get himself to safety now, and he's going to have it stuck with a little bit of backup. And again, we just keep transitioning, because Unga Bunga and Elite Hazard, it might be wet noodles, but it's constant wet noodles.
It just keeps going, right? The endless onslaught of ghouls. When the Triforce gets finished, I feel like that lane is going to become very unpleasant for Elite Hazard. That's really, the Triforce power spike is just the bane of a lot of, you know, like top laners everywhere. If you're not the one getting it, then it's just, you're looking at it and you're like, oh no, 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 no.
So we saw this in our last game. We saw it stuck going for a Herald. He's going to have to use the Ragnarok just to get away here, and it's so much damage coming through from Egotistical. It's going to be the big Glacial Fissure as Egotistical picks up the kill onto Olaf, and yet again, TY for Leash. It's going to be Armada, who, as long as this doesn't reset, are going to lose out on the Herald, because Spartans are just able to pick it up for free.
I think they're still going to lose out. Are they not going to do it?
No, I don't think so.
That's surprising.
That reset cost them.
They could have still, like, with it stuck dead. The Suitsu doesn't do the fastest Herald, but they still would have been able to, because Herald is really not that strong. It just takes a while, but you have the time with Egotistical back in his lane, you have the time with the pressure that the priority that Unga Bunga has, but then they decide not to go for it instead, which is a fine choice as well, taking it a little bit slower. But yeah, it's stuck. Has just Plymouth Armada in general has just kind of made a habit out of leashing objectives for the Stratford Spartans. The Baron earlier, the Rift Herald, like we said on the Echo game, and now on this scenario as well, just not really respecting the fact that if he gets caught there, he just gets taken out. He's Olaf, right? Like, what is he going to do? Like, run across the wall with Ragnarok? The answer is no, that doesn't work. Egotistical has more than enough damage, as we see another Cloud Dragon here. And if the final game would have been 3 Cloud Dragons, that might have been a completely different story.
Armada certainly would have been a lot happier. I'd like to know your thoughts on the Leona in this game, because it almost feels like, I mean, it's going to be great for the engage potential later on as the team is stronger, but in the early game it's usually considered an engage champion in a team that doesn't want to engage. The patience that we've seen so far from Synapse Booster not to be kind of throwing down Solar Flares and Zenith Blades all day long has been quite extraordinary to only be involved in, you know, the 2 kills, the 1 death and the 1 assist.
But what can you do against a Caitlyn Morgana lane, like with a Sivir who has bought the Curl, has not finished an Infinity Edge, has not finished his Zeal item? Like, there's just not that much, I think, in a straight up, unless you get a really big combo as a booster right on top of Cookie Inferno, which you can't really because of, yeah, we saw that on the Hunt getting used, I'm not sure why. With Tsushimi, you know, having the Black Shield available, it's just so tough to get those combos off. And then it just becomes really rough. But also rough is what's happening to Sprinter here. Sprinter getting caught by Endless CC, but the Endless CC ends. He manages to Rift Walk away, but now he's going to be stuck, finding himself rather stuck. He has an Undead General coming down there with the Unstoppable Onslaught, and Unga Bunga going so very low. Caster gets the shutdown onto the long off screen, but Unga Bunga takes down It's Stuck. Meanwhile, Caitlyn picks up a kill onto the Leona, and I believe that we also saw a kill going over as it may have been, no, it wasn't Elite Hazard who dropped down. I'm pretty sure that Yorick managed to kill someone on the back of that, but it's Sashimi who is in all sorts of trouble, lands the binding, it's under turret, and it doesn't matter how long you auto-attack and try and lifesteal for. Sivir, you going down! Indeed, indeed. And that was kind of necessary, because if Sivir had not gone down, it would have been a really bad trade on the end of the Stratford Spartans. Kind of surprising there. I thought that It's Stuck, again, using the Ragnarok so incredibly early, but on the back of a great play by Sprinter, who's just able to almost die, and same goes for It's Stuck, honestly, and then just barely get away with a sliver of health, baiting the rest of the team from the Spartans into committing on that engage and then getting punished appropriately. So well played by Plymouth Armada there. And now all of a sudden we have a pretty even, like almost even game here. 2 kills up and 2 Cloud Dragons, but the gold is dead even.
And every time we mention it, we're getting closer and closer to the late game mark where actually Armada's team could well and truly outscale the Spartans. One thing that I've just got to give some credit to, we didn't actually get to see it, I'm a little bit disappointed, was Sprinter. He made that play, getting away, looking like he was heading completely the wrong direction, but because of everything that was happening in the river, he was able to turn it back on Egotistical and take him down.
Exactly, netting him the shutdown. Now all of a sudden he's a shutdown on his own because he did, of course, already have that CS advantage. And let's be real, Stratford Spartans also have a good late game composition. The Yorick pressure that you have in the side lane, the engage potential that you have with a Sui's Glacial Prison, but it's Egotistical that is still going to be really strong. But as the rest of Plymouth Armada are going to hit the power spike, he's just going to fall off. The first turret, though, is really something that they need to make work here. I would also love to see them pick up the Rift Herald as Unga Bunga just keeps going in and flashes in for the kill, I assume. Yeah,
he's also blocking off that Unstoppable Onslaught, and with the Maiden doing its work, it's going to be Elite Hazard trying to get himself to safety, but he's just having to run out of there because the Unstoppable Onslaught was blocked. Here comes Egotistical. He's going to try and land the chain. It's not going to land. The damage is not there. Maiden not able to pick up the kill. Elite Hazard lives yet again.
And Sprinter making his way up top. Doesn't get found though, but Sui does. And nice flash that. If he had not flashed that would have been a definite kill.
Yeah, that was Bristle quickly flashing away from the Solar Flare, keeping Sejuani intact. Riding her steed to safety. Now we're going to see the dash in, the teleport being channeled, and it's going to be Elite Hazard, I believe, who is coming in. It's actually the Kassadin that's going to join the fight, but Cookie Inferno is already picking up the 1 kill on the Synapse Booster. Cookie Inferno very, very low, but Synapse Sprinter flashes forward, uses the Rift Walk, gets a kill in return. It's going to be 1 for 1 now. It's 2 for 1 because Sivir has taken down the Sejuani, trying to take down Sashimi. We do see it stuck, just going a little bit too far, getting taken down by Sashimi. Meanwhile, Unga Bunga inside his own cage throws down the Maiden, and he's easily able to stave off Synapse Runner and Synapse Sprinter.
And Sashimi just keeps up picking his kills, doesn't he? Yeah, how does he does it? Cookie Inferno, if those 4 assists were 4 kills, it would be a completely different game. Synapse probably going through the static shift first and not selling the coal yet, which I would have loved to see. Not sure why he's holding on to that item. And on the other end, the classic Infinity Edge Shield Caitlyn does quite a lot of the damage, as we saw there as well. Like, you already see that Cookie Inferno at this point in time still does a very good job at just matching the raw damage, but Sprinter really the hero there. Runner and Booster stay alive long enough, but then Sprinter comes in, picks up another kill, 40 CS lead, another assist as well. He's just looking incredibly scary as we are starting to approach that level 16 Kassadin that we always hear so much about. And the reason is because once Rift Walk hits level 3, the damage that comes out of that champion is absolutely unreal.
We're going to see the Zenith Flare in from Synapse Booster, but he walks straight into the chain coming out of Egotistical. That's going to be Leona stepping away. This blue buff is up on the side of Plymouth Armada, and with so many people on the bottom half of the map, we might well see it contest instead. It is going to be a little bit of pressure being put down in the bot lane as Spartans look towards the turret, but immediately decide, you know what, we've got a Yorick pushing in top, we're alright.
Indeed, and that pressure is not getting matched. Nice preemptive rotation there to make sure that they can't really push in. Look also at the mid wave and just Elite Hazard positioning, not really responding well to this pressure from the split push of the Yorick. Drum's Fist now also finished on him, and Unga Bunga just having a field day, just freely hammering away as we see the engagement there.
Sashimi yet again landing a cracking Dark Binding, managing to pick up the kill onto his opposition support in supportal combat. It's going to be it stuck, dropping down the Ragnarok too little, too late to save him, and now it's Sivir who is just running away, trying to get to the safety of Synapse Sprinter, just about managing to keep alive with the ADC and AP still available. Elite Hazard has made his way up to the top lane. He wasn't there in time to save one turret, but he's going to try and do a little bit of work up against Unga Bunga, who walls him in, throws all those ghouls at Elite Hazard's face, and despite the tankiness of the Scion, he is not winning these trades even a little bit.
He doesn't need to for now, but as we progress, it's going to be an increasingly big problem if he's not able to catch up, which right now does look like he's going to have a really hard time. And if 2 Cloud Dragons wasn't enough, the 3rd dragon of the game is an Ocean Dragon, which in the early laning phase is something that a lot of teams really like because it makes your laning so much stronger. But 20 minutes when you already picked up 2 Cloud Dragons, it's not the greatest. You're still going to take it regardless, and it's Synapse Sprinter again. Like, Booster a little bit out of position there. It's stuck also just sticking with his teammate to a fault. Going for the Righteous Glory here, I would have much rather seen something like the Redemption, like the Knight's Vow, like more supportive items to enable Sprinter, to enable Runner, because I feel like the fact that it's stuck and run faster towards Cookie Inferno isn't really going to do much.
He's just running to his death faster.
Exactly, because he's just going to get blown up real quick by the Stratford Spartans.
Yeah, it's really hard to disagree with you on that one, Maritz, as much as I really wanted to.
That's always nice when your co-host like, I want to disagree with you, but I really can't. Not this time. I'll find a time, but not this time.
One day. Well, in the last game we saw Armada looking for a Desperation Baron. In this one it's going to be the Stratford Spartans who started up, and they have so much more damage than Armada did in the last game. They've already taken it down to 3,000 health. It's stuck is on the outside. It does have the flash. It does have the smite. It goes in, but it does not manage to get still. In the end, it's secured by the LeBlanc. Here comes the unstoppable onslaught of Sion, but it just runs straight past the entire fight. It's going to be LeBlanc who takes down Olaf, and now looks for more kills as Caitlyn takes down the Caston. We do see a knock-up coming in from Elite Hazard onto multiple people, and Sivir is able to pick up the kill to Morgana, but Yorick takes down Leona, and Sidehouse Runner on the back flashes away, but it's too late because Yorick's already got one. Yorick's already got two. LeBlanc completes the ace, taking down Elite Hazard. Then it's going to be the Baron, and 5 kills for the Stratford Spartans.
And the only one who gets taken down is Sashimi. You're like, okay, you're Morgana. You know, you don't have a stopwatch. You've done your things. You've thrown out your chains. We're fine. Everyone important still alive. Cookie Inferno will have that Baron buff. Unga Boonga, perhaps the most crucial one to have. The Demolish procs are going to make sure, together with the Baron, that none of the turrets that are still standing are going to survive for a long amount of time. And it's just in general, the Spartans have so much pressure now. And when the game was relatively even, right, from the Plymouth Armada, they were able to match the pace that was thrown at them by the Spartans. They were able to stay alive, but then a couple of mistakes here and there, like that fight in the bot side, it's stuck and Sinem's booster got taken out, right? Like the fact that they're not really ready to respond to this fast Baron here coming out from the Spartans. A couple of these mistakes have suddenly completely shifted the gold lead, have completely shifted the momentum of this game. And what's even more threatening is that this puts the horizon of when the Armada comes online so much further back, and that's something that I'm really worried about, because you were saying, I agree with you, it looks like the Armada were just doing so well to just stay on track, play safe, contest when you need to contest, and just stay alive regardless. But now through a couple of key errors and really nice aggressive play from the Spartans there, because look how well they were target firing Sprinter there. As soon as he Rift walks in, he was just blown up in a matter of seconds at that teamfight there. And now all of a sudden the Spartans are looking firmly in control of this game.
Yeah, it stuck had no real... Oh my gosh, Unga Bunga just completely demolishing Elite Hazard's health bar and taking him down. It stuck had no right to be in a position where he could contest that smite, but he almost did, and I'd love to know just how close the smite still was.
You see that Raptor Cloak on Unga Bunga. I don't even think he's going to need it. Starrick's Gates finished as well, but I always love to see that, because you know what follows next. Zerot, but it doesn't matter if every single lane is pushing in. You can just end the game right here. You don't need the extra means from Zerot's portal.
Oh, massive damage coming out of Sign Sprinter, and it is going to lead to Sivir getting the 1 kill onto Sashimi, but it's just too little too late. Stratford Spartans are going to close out game 1 of this series, taking the lead against Plymouth Armada.
It's again only Sashimi who dies, who's really mastered the art of being the support and dying for your carry. You know, just eats that damage. Black Shield on Cookie Inferno. He can just keep on moving here. Static Shift finish for him as well. So is Run, who is actually having quite a good game. But it's Stuck and Booster who's supposed to be the front line, who can't really do that. Then you have Elite Hazard, who also tries to be, but with how far Unga Bunga is ahead, that health bar, even on a Sion, doesn't mean that much. A Predator is popped, but it's stuck. This is not a good idea. Please don't go in there.
Both of the Nexus turrets have dropped, but the Armada say, you know what, Greyheart, you called it too early. This game is not over yet. We are hanging in there by the skin of our teeth.
And they do. And I don't know for how much longer. We have not seen yet which dragon is going to spawn.
I believe
next.
it's Cloud.
Another Cloud. Good. That means that you can rotate faster from inhibitor to inhibitor that are still up, and that's only 2 left here at the 26 minutes. And again, Armada showing a really good performance in the early to mid game here, staying even, able to stay up in CS as well, which is something that's kind of gone by the wayside now. Although, look at Runner, look at Sprinter, you see that in terms of CS, Armada's really doing a good job. It's really the skirmishes, the positioning errors that they're making, and just the way that they rotate and try to deal with the Spartans is just not really respecting the power spike that the their opponents have, and because of that, all of a sudden, a game that was looking even as little as 5 minutes ago is now almost up to a 10k gold lead.
Yeah, and it's never nice to kind of point blame, but the 173, it's Stuck, who hasn't really been able to pick up any objectives for his team, and unfortunately hasn't got the KDA to match, or even the items you'd hope for him to be looking towards. It feels like Olaf pick has not been as influential, and you called it in Champ Select that could be a problem.
And that's the thing with the Olaf. He got the kill as well, which is like what makes it worse. But again, this is also what happens if we've seen this now multiple times from the Plymouth Armada. They pick completely scaling champions that are going to have no priority in lane, and then you pick the Olaf, which is like if you have one lane that can, if you get a Lucian Leona, right? I got distracted by the fact that
many
booster almost died there.
Brilliant Dark Bindings.
But yeah, oh man, Sashimi, like, doing an amazing job here. Eats a couple of death when he needs to, hits the bindings, but the problem is that the Olaf, if you have a Lucian Brom lane, then go for it, because Olaf, Lucian, Brom can just run down any mid-game team fight. If you have maybe the LeBlanc on your side, in the mid lane, right, then the Olaf does something, but now, if you have the Olaf, like, solely to carry you through to the, say, mid-game, that he did, but then the problem was afterwards. And it just didn't go very well as the inhibitor goes down here, and inevitably we're going to be looking at a victory screen for the Spartans here too, because unless Silent Sprinter can hit level 16 real soon, it's not looking good.
It definitely isn't. Egotistical does take a turret shot. The ZZ Rock portal that we talked about earlier has been completed. It's helping those super minions push in even more down the bot lane. The final turret that belongs to the base of Plymouth Armada is gone. The final inhibitor will fall soon after, leaving nothing but an exposed Nexus turret. The dreams of the Armada may fall on this final fight as the Righteous Glory Olaf goes in, throws down the Berserker, tries to get a kill, and he's actually going to manage to take down Shishimi. Yet again, the support is dying, but look at Cookie Inferno on the back. He goes down, but takes Sivir with him. That's going to be both the ADCs dropping down. Unga Bunga goes down as well, and this is almost a clean ace in favour of the side of Plymouth Armada. They've managed to keep their base alive, but now it's Stuck's going to have to go back and deal with super minions.
Because even if you get this pick here, or like get these picks here, which is really nice, and this is also what you see, this is what the Armada Cup wants to do. You want to run in with the Olaf, you want to run in with Elite Hazard, you know, you have this hard engage from the Leona as well. You lock someone down, you just completely demolish them, and then you can run the rest of the team down. The problem is, that also doesn't really account for the fact that what happens if your Olaf gets blown up almost instantly, and in this situation, we clearly see that the comp from the Spartans were just too clumped up, really nice AoE coming out, and don't underestimate Runner, because we haven't really talked about him in this game, but he's still a Sivir with a Quicksilver Sash, but more importantly, has the Phantom Dancer, which offensively is really a lot weaker than the Rapid Fire Cannon, but it does give the lifeline, and we all know Runner needs that lifeline right now, because the Static Shiv and the IE do plenty of damage on the ricochets and the boomerangs. But he just needs to stay alive against the Caitlyn crits, against the Yorick, and of course against Egotistical LeBlanc.
I think Armada in general needs some kind of lifeline at the moment, with the second Baron having just spawned and Stratford Spartans immediately circling around to try and spell its doom.
They can't contest this.
It's going to almost certainly
impossible.
go over again. This time, Sashimi taking away the Blast Cone, making sure it's going to be so very hard for it Stuck to get in there. He does not have a flash available this time. And like you say, this one is basically gone before the side of Plymouth Armada can even react.
And while all of this is happening, Unga Bunga is just having a field day in the bot lane.
Casual time for him.
Yeah, he's alright. Egotistical just goes in to make sure that no shenanigans happen there. Nice trap line as well, and if the smite goes well, as it does, there's literally nothing that should ruin things here. You need to be careful to get hard engaged on here though, because Unga Bunga is going for the Nexus, so I guess he just ends.
We're going to see a victory scene as this fight goes on. It is going to be Sivir picking up a kill onto the Caitlyn. We might even see a second one as Silent Sprinter gets a kill. But there's the victory scene.
Yeah.
Unga Bunga leads his ghouls into the base, ZZ Rot portal and all, and that is 1-0 in this series to the
So the Stratford
Spartans.
Should have caught you a little bit earlier there, my apologies. And Plymouth Armada showing a couple of things, showing a really greedy draft for the first game in a best of one, and seemingly pulling it off up until the mid game, where they go relatively even with a comp that in the mid game is a lot stronger than them, but then repeatedly like multiple mistakes in terms of like engaging when they shouldn't, not really assigning a lanes right, meaning that Unga Bunga could just pick up like one turret, can pick up half a turret as well, without the rest of the team really getting punished. Not even not getting punished, I think they won a team fight while simultaneously like hard pushing with a Yorick, which is something that should never happen. And I feel like if the Plymouth Armada like plays that comp differently, plays that game differently in the mid game, sticks together, and either like hard engages and takes those fights, or just hangs back more and deals with Yorick, they're going to be fine.
There was one moment it all hinged on for me personally, Maritz, and that was where that first Baron went down, and you see it stuck, flashing in, almost managing to get the steal away to be perfectly fair to him, but at that point, you leave your Olaf to die. Okay,
Yeah.
you take your 4 other members and you go, all right, now we got to go defend a Baron, but we're still scaling, we've still got a chance. Instead they get aced. I think it was maybe one member manages to live, but
Sashimi died. Everyone else?
yeah, I think it was a clean, basically almost a clean ace.
Yeah, Sashimi
and all of a sudden, then the game is basically over, and it would have been so interesting to see if that hadn't happened. Could that comp have scaled up again? Because actually, there was a fight near the end where all of a sudden, actually, the side of Armada managed to pretty much wipe the Spartans out, but unfortunately, their base was already in ruins back at that point, and now we need to see. Could they possibly turn it around in game 2? Yes,
maybe.
they could. Because
they could, because we know. But we're going to see how. Because I do wonder how. Because we don't know the draft. We just know that this is going to. Well, more importantly, guys, I want you to think about. So say you're in you're a team. You're in this position, right? Like I said, we're going to talk about the picks and bans in a little bit, but do a thought experiment with me here, with us here. Sorry, Greyhound. You are in this position where you had a really greedy draft and you played the mid game wrong. What are you going to focus on in the next game? Because I wonder, like, what was the comms at the Armada? Were they going, okay, so we didn't really respond appropriately to the Yorick. We made a couple of bad calls in the mid game. It stuck, got stuck repeatedly as the Olaf, so maybe we need to give him, something different where he can get away easier, and we need to be careful of these mid-game team fights where we overextend. Or are they going to go, okay, we drafted really greedily, we drafted the Kassadin, we drafted the Sign, we drafted the Sivir, and then Olaf Leona, which is okay, like once you get to that point, but like in mid-game it just isn't going to do that much. And I want to see what Plymouth Armada came up with that was enough to beat Stratford Spartans in Game 2, and I hope you guys want to see that as well.
Well, we have swapped sides of the rift. We're going to see the Yorick taken away from Unga Bunga.
That's a good one.
But we're not going to see the LeBlanc taken away from Egotistical this time. Of course, there is the opportunity for the side of Plymouth Armada to just snap it up for themselves first pick this time.
Indeed, as they are blue side final band coming through here. Are we going to see one of the OPs? Are they going to go for something more specific? I'm wondering, and it is going to be end up the Thrash. So just all around Thrash, really strong support, and Bombarding likes that as well. So not too surprising, but fine band there. Just generally, Thrash provides so much ability, and as you say, there is the first pick away. Sprinter will this time be the one, and it looks like the initial answer from Armada is, okay, we had a greedy draft. We're going to adjust that.
Yep, and straight away that adaptation comes in, and possibly we see the Kassadin played into it. Maybe we see that change being made from the Spartans. Perhaps they have something else in mind to play up against Sprinters LeBlanc. What we do know, however, is that straight away the adaptation you talked about, that conversation, because obviously for us these games are coming really close together, but for the teams they'll have had a small break in between, and it does look like Armada have gone away and gone, okay, we did this wrong, now we make a change.
And this is really what separates a lot of like mid-tier from high-tier teams. And this is not specifically talking about like the belong level, but also like the higher levels. Like you have these teams that are just really good in best of ones because they can just take tempo and just run with it, as we saw in the first/third game that we opened up, where the Stratford Spartans really showed that there are a team that can do that. Like teams like that are so scary to face in the best of one, that just because in the first game, let's be honest, it took them quite a while. The mid game wasn't nearly as good as we saw in game number 1, game number 3, and again though they keep defaulting back to this Sivir and this Sion, and with the LeBlanc, if they also get a proactive jungler, it completely changes, because all of a sudden your middle axis becomes a legitimate threat. The roams are there, the pressure is there. You can't just freely try and push Sivir back into a turret, which if she gets an even matchup doesn't happen, but with the Caitlyn Morgana does. And let's see how the Spartans are going to answer that, because that's a real question to me here, is are they going to be able to deal with that switch up from Armada?
So speaking of switch ups, one of the switch ups that has been made for Armada is they have taken out Booster, Synapse Booster, who played in the last game, instead bringing in Bombarding. So perhaps a different style on this support, to maybe bring something different to the game. He's still going to be paired up with the Sivir, which obviously Runner is very, very comfortable with, but yeah.
And we see the Xin Zhao ban. I feel like Xin Zhao at the highest level of competitive play has kind of fallen off in popularity due to the fact that, again, he is a jungler where you have a lot of pressure on you to really make it work early, and a lot of teams are trying to like switch away from the style, unless you're in China or like your Sandbox in LCK, then you just want that jungler regardless. Also, the Void, that he's like the only really strong level 2 jungler that Camille has just been, not been treated very nicely in the jungle by Riot with the stun change. And it's also something that Armada really wants to pick up, because with the LeBlanc, you want a jungler that can make those roams, that can get her ahead and then start really either invading a Suitsui on the Sejuani, or just keep killing Egotistical, keep roaming top, keep roaming bot.
I really like this last ban. The Morgana being taken away from Sushimi, so on point. We've seen some fantastic support play today. Earlier on today, a couple of brilliant Thresh games were played on the side of the Invincibles. Now we've had a fantastic game of Morgana being played by Sushimi. That one has been respected by the side of Armada, who can now change things up. We do look like we're having the Orianna hovered. It's going to end up being the Corki locked in. This for me means Egotistical Corki. Cassiopeia is going to be the APC for Cookie Inferno.
Yeah, they can flex around with it a little bit, but I think Corki ADC, like you say, we haven't seen that in so long. I don't think you want to go for that. What does mean, though, is that besides the Urgot now, it's kind of switched, where the Spartans are the one with the greedier draft, because Cassiopeia needs to scale up. Corki is a late-game terror with the mixed damage that he does, but it's going to take a while for him to get there, as opposed to the early game, where I thought that what the Spartans did well was take a lead and kind of run with it and make use of that. We do see the Leona again. I think that's interesting, though. I want to see the jungler here, because the jungler is really going to make a difference whether or not they're going to be able to make these push, and it looks like they will be going for the Echo that we saw it stuck play in game number 3 as well. And what it does allow you to do is, if you hit the parallel convergence, which is kind of hard, it's really good, but the burst from an Echo LeBlanc, if they get ahead, is terrifying.
Well, we've got ourselves a different support player, but a same support champion coming in, as Bombarding is just going to step straight into boosters, mobility boots, and go in with the Leona. Will we see a more active phase coming out of the Civ Leona this time? Well, it's going to be going up against the Nami and most likely Cassiopeia.
And I'd say that we do, even though the Sivir isn't the strongest, it's also about the fact that now all of a sudden, if you have this Cassiopeia Nami lane, yes, Miasma and Bubble, like as with any CC combo, it's quite nice. But Sivir is not like she has anything to do with the Miasma regardless, right? She can spell shield the Bubble. And the Echo is just a much bigger threat, in my opinion. Not necessarily because the Olaf wasn't a threat to the bot lane, but just because now all of a sudden you're standing against a Cassio and a Nami, neither of which can get away from that Leona engage, as opposed to what we saw previously, where Caitlyn Morgana is just so much harder to make plays, which you want to do, as you said, you pointed out as well, with the Leona, you want to get these engages, you want to try to get ahead, and then once you're ahead as Leona, you just continuously go in. Can't really do that against Caitlyn Morgana, who are going to push you in, who have the Black Shield, who have the 90 caliber net to just try and run away from you whenever you try to make these plays. And it's mainly the fact that, like you said, Morgana ban combined with still the Civ Leona and the Echo, I feel like Nami and Cassiopeia need to be careful.
And there's a potential roam that can come out for the Armada as well. So all of a sudden the Solar Flare drops on your head, and it's not just a Sivir that's running at you. It's not just the Olaf we had in the last game. All of a sudden you've got potential Echo. You're more likely to have a LeBlanc who can roam away, unlike the Kassadin who had to just stay in his lane last time.
Yeah,
it's a whole different game.
Sprinter made as big of an impact in that game, although I feel like he still had some errors as well. The Baron Pit always said to fight where you try to go in and you just rift walk in and just get blown up because you don't really respect the burst damage that comes out of the opposing team. That's not something you can really get away with. But even then, like the first 11 levels, you don't really expect anything of Kassadin. With the LeBlanc, it's completely different. And I'm loving to see whether or not they're actually going to use that mid-game power spike that they do have with this comp now, because it feels like once they hit the late game again, Sion and Sivir are going to do more than fine. You're going to have the hard engage. You're going to have a really easy comp to play as well. It's like very front to back, right? They have, the Echo is the only like kind of wonky thing, but you just have Sion, Leona, they engage, they tank stuff. Sivir throws boomerang blades in the back. And they tried that first time as well, but the comp was a lot more harder to execute against a team on the side of the Spartans. This time, though, even with the cleanse, I feel like the composition from the Spartans is just a lot more glass cannon-y, which I think that Armada comp will do quite fine against. Bunga, though, had a great performance last time on the Yorick, and it is, in my opinion, still a good matchup into the Sion here. So maybe we're going to see some action there. The Suitsu had a great impact last game. The early game didn't really do too much, just basically punished it stuck when he overextended. And this game, I expect pretty much the same. The real big thing is, again, Egotistical was big in snowballing the bot game, in snowballing the mid game in general for the Spartans. Now they have them on a late game carry. Is they going to work, yes or no?
Oh, you know what? Yes, no, maybe. Don't care. Egotistical is playing UFO Corki. One of my favourite skins in all the game. I haven't seen it for such a long time.
It's the small things, like an amazing skin, that really make it worth your while, isn't it?
I'm not entirely sure if that's there because of League Unlocked, whether that's one of the skins that gets unlocked, or if it's just that he's got that legacy skin in his pocket. Whichever way it is, I just love to see it in game. And we're going to see him have the cleanse as well. So quite interesting taking that one into sign up Sprinters LeBlanc.
Indeed. Also, maybe I have to do with the fact that you're facing Leona on the other end. Possibly parallel convergence, but with the Valkyrie, shouldn't really get hit by that. As we see some early trading here, and it's Stuck already looking for a level 2 gank.
He has been present in the bot lane in all 3 of the games that we've seen, but this time it's Asuisu who is in the top lane instead of the counter gank in bot lane, and it's Elite Hazard who takes the worst of the trade.
Indeed, just kind of needs to run out there, respect to the damage coming out from Asuitsu, and a flash being forced there by Cookie Inferno, so that's a summoner forced there by It's Stuck. Great job, no summoner forced on the top side, so all in all, that's a small win for Plymouth Armada.
Certainly is. And as we go into this game, we just have a brief moment to talk about how awesome League Unlocked is. We're here at one of the Blanc Studios ourselves, and we pop onto our accounts and hey, what's that? We've got loads of cool skins you can play. We've got all the champions available, and it's a great thing that you can do at the Blanc arenas.
And everyone knows skins are pay to win, so now I can finally be good at League, which is something I've aspired for a very long time, and now it's actually reality just thanks to League Unlocked.
Hey, I gained a whole 60 LP the second that I got Snowman Master Yi. So I mean, not Snowman Master Yi, another champion that's not Master Yi.
Because you don't play Master Yi, Greyhound, because that would be terrible.
No, only horrible people play that.
No first blood yet. Like you said, like the last, the former 2 couple of games we had Asuitsu and It's Stuck just both pathing towards the Bloodside Scuttle and just having a 3v3. This time, though, it's Sprinter is pathing towards It's Stuck, who is only level 2.
Nice little bit of dodging coming out of Sprinter. Meanwhile, Egotistical finding himself in all sorts of trouble as It's Stuck tries to dash down towards him. Flash coming out of Asuitsu, trying to get to safety, but actually still stepping forward. The Ignite is going to be enough to get Sprinter the first blood in this game. Egotistical without a flash available, going to drop down, and Sprinter has found himself 2 kills in the 3rd minute.
And what a complete difference as It's Stuck can probably not get out of here, as Unga Boonga was swaying very nicely, throws his corrupting charge, and that's the end of It's Stuck.
I'm not sure I've ever seen a summoner with a more appropriate name than It's Stuck.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah. Like every time, he just has kind of a uncanny talent for it. Maybe I'm like trying to think of a champion that wants to get hit.
Karthus.
Yeah, I guess, but even then, maybe you should just play Karthus, because then you could still get stuck, but you could just demolish everyone because of the File and Lay Waste and Requiem and all those fun skills that are completely avoidable unless you're standing on top of Karthus, or in case of Requiem, you're a champion and you're alive. So Sign Up Sprint's a complete switch up from his previous game. Well, on the casting we saw him not really having an impact until like 15 minutes. This time starts off with a 2-on LeBlanc, gets the Lost Chapter on the first back. Egotistical is gonna have to be incredibly careful, because if this snowball can continue, It's Stuck also getting up, picking up 2 assists and playing fairly aggressive on the Echo here. And it's really Sign Up Sprint who now can do what we saw Ego do the last game.
Unga Boonga stepping forward, putting Elite Hazard pretty low, but of course Unga Boonga nowhere near that level 6 just yet. No Fear Beyond Death going to strike, no chains on the screen of Elite Hazard, who this is the 3rd game we've now seen him playing the Scion.
And he does well. He farms, he stays alive. In the mid game, he finds the engages that he needs to. And it's really just the 2 kills on the side of Sign Up Sprinter where the gold lead is coming from right now. Everything else is relatively even. A little bit of CS lead here and there for one side or the other, but nothing really conclusive as we see. This is what we were talking about before. Against Caitlyn Morgana, you're going to have a really good time, or really bad time of Civic, because you're going to get pushed in. But in this scenario, you can push.
Yeah,
that's the first one. We've seen what 3 of
those do. Our
old
friend is back on the Rift, and this time it is going to be the side of Armada who prioritise it. They've got a decent amount of priority onto this, with both the bot lane and the jungler doing decent damage, but here comes the Nami. She's going to face check this one. She's going to find a parallel convergence. Sashimi, who has done so very well at dying only to help her team live, goes forward, throws the Ignite. The auto attack is going to be enough to pick up a kill in support or combat, and with that Baron, no! Dragon going through very, very low. In the end, it's picked up by a Sivir auto attack. It's going to be Cyap's runner flashing and healing to keep himself alive. The Infernal goes over to Armada, but the Spartans do pick up a kill.
the fact that Armada was able to steal or smite that dragon and still get it off the back of a Sivir auto attack is like harrowing. Because imagine if you give the Spartans that Inferno here, because that is so huge for the impact of your game. Because all of a sudden, Sign Up Sprint does not get access to that. You still give up a kill, but that's not too big of a deal. Bombarding getting taken out there. Because the kill did in the end go to Shimi, who, if he gets kills, on the Nami, what do you really care? Play's getting picked up here now by Cookie Inferno and Tsushimi, who make glad use of the fact that Sign Up Runner went for that back there, first back BF, so that's going to be quite a nuisance to deal with.
Quite a nuisance to deal with. It's pretty much a way of describing Urgot in his current state of play as he steps forward. But you know what? Elite Hazard's like, I can trade with you. I've got that grasp to refill my health every now and then, and he's having a good old time as that Scion.
Yeah, Elite Hazard does what we've seen him do. He's just been, put on Scion duty, and he's doing admirably. It's stuck. This time, not getting caught as many times as of yet, is still fairly low level, but the same goes for Asuitsu, as most of the other laners are going towards 5-6. Both of them are still on floor, as is expected with the current state of the jungle, and we see a lot of plays getting picked up here by Sign Up Runner, and this is one of the things that's really going to keep extending the gold lead here for Plymouth Armada. And if they get ahead with this composition, we've said before, the hard engage that they have with Elite Hazard and Bombarding, and of course the Sivir ultimate. The fact that if Sign Up Runner picks up an early IE, he hits an early power spike, but he needs to be careful here.
Sign Up's Runner is going to get the bubble landing on top of his head. The flash forward from Cookie Inferno, trying to throw down as much damage as possible, but Sign Up's Runner is just about going to be able to get away. The Arcane Comet not going to land. Cookie Inferno with the Ignite burning her so very, very low. It's going to be the stun landing onto Sashimi, who does not have the flash available. The heal is going to be used by Cassiopeia just to try and get Sashimi to safety. It's going to be the Zenith Blade from Bombarding, not enough to pick up a kill, and the nice teamwork there from the Stratford Spartans.
Yeah, getting just away, like so close there for the Spartans. Almost able to punish there, but nice play coming out from Runner and Bombarding as we see more fights here in the top lane. Elite Hazard takes some harass, but he has grasp of the Undying and he's Scion, so in the end it's all fairly inconsequential. The same can't be said for that mid lane where we see Egotistical going for a Hex Drinker first. He's really respecting the damage that Sprinter brings, which I really like. It's stuck though, still level 4 against a level 6 Suitsu, and It's Stuck has been consistently lagging behind in these levels, also because he goes for these ganks, but then if they don't work out, we see the 14 CS deficit here translates to 2 levels, has now hit level 5, but still, you want to get that Chrono Shift as soon as you can so that you can actually start making these plays.
That being said, he does have 2 critical assists for his team. Meanwhile, it looks like we're going to see the Spartans getting themselves the 3rd kill of the game as Suisu does manage to take down Bombarding. The Leona has been sent back to the fountain with the grey screen. Meanwhile, Unga Bunga still looking for the damage onto Elite Hazard, not throwing out the Fear Beyond Death just yet.
Sign Up Runner, looking for some plays here, but I feel like you're a little bit over enthusiastic there, Runner. Can't really move up towards these. Is gonna clear the wave though, and with that he can just back off. There's the Petrifying Gaze that he completely coolies. He both turns around and he uses the spell shield. Very easy going. Yeah, no, I'm not afraid of it. I have both the mechanical counterplay and I can press my spell shield both at the same time. And Sprinter though, again, the 2 kills, good. Also the fact that Egotistical has to kind of run or divert from his usual build path is really good. But now I want to see, can he push the advantage further? Can we maybe get the bot lane further ahead? Because Runner is already in a good position, does go for the Cull as well, which I think is an interesting choice because that's usually done when you want to just stay even, catch up later on. Instead, you forfeit combat stats here for a bigger payoff later on.
One thing that was probably slightly disappointing there for the Spartans was the fact that the kill went over to a Suisu when the Cassiopeia was there right on top of the Leona, possibly the ability to pick up the kill. However, the Cookie Inferno doing a pretty decent job of not falling too far behind in CS.
Indeed, and it is a rough lane you really need to respect, especially with the current state of the bot lane as it is. The engagement from Bombarding, because if Runner with that BF sword starts just hitting autos and he spell shields and turns around your Petrifying Gaze, it's not looking good as we see a gank there on Sprinter, who just paths away towards It's Stuck and gets out safely.
You know what, if you thought Urgot was an ugly, irritating champion before, with the hyperkinetic position reverser, now with the Fear Beyond Death and the knee cannons and just everything, it's even worse, isn't it?
I'd say so, yeah. I think that current iteration Urgot is quite strong and also not very fun to play against with how strong he is right now. Maybe if after the nerfs at 9.4, it's going to be okay. Another important Drake here, Mountain Dragon, getting picked up here by the Spartans.
And it looks like it's going to be secured easily enough as long as the Suisu Smite is on point, which it certainly is. That's going to be one Dragon All, however, this is just a Mountain Dragon in response to the Infernal. Meanwhile, some turret plating being picked up in mid.
And we now see, actually, in the, because of that roam from Unga Bunga, we see CS advantage for Elite has in the top lane. Sprinter, what are you doing there?
Well, the Fear Beyond Death has been challenged. If the health goes low enough, we could possibly see the kill, but it's not going to happen. The Sprinter managing to dash to safety, keeping that 2-0-0 scoreline at the expense of a flash.
Mind if the Lugan's on his next back. It's stuck level 6. Not going to have to want to come near Unga Bunga here, who is quite scary. Does not have the Black Cleaver yet, but once he does, it's going to be even worse. And again, Egotistical completely Una, but it's sort of quite alright because there's no lane opponent yet. But look at the Romy coming out from Run and bombarding as we see. For a second, the Suitsui considers going for the Rift Herald there, but instead backs off.
We've seen that backfire multiple times for teams today. People started things off, not realising Vision was on it, and it's led to all sorts of horrific deaths. Asuisu was not to be the latest victim of it.
No, respects it, unlike it stuck, as we saw earlier on the Olaf and the Echo as well. Silent Sprinter now, we see an interesting switch here coming out in the lane assignment, where Runner is instead going to go towards that mid lane. I love the aggressive push here. Not too sure whether you want the LeBlanc laning 1v2, because I feel like if anything you'd swap with Elite Hazard. And we see Sianap's Runner now, so maybe they're gonna swap that out regardless. But there isn't really a nice response coming out from the Spartans. That means a lot of free turret plating all around the map for the Plymouth Armada.
Yeah, they're very close to being able to pick up that extra gold from the first turret being killed off. Meanwhile, we are going to see Sprinter just backing off again, having taken down yet another bit of turret plating despite being in that 1 versus 2 environment.
Getting close to the Infinity Edge for Runner. Once he gets that, he's going to be a very scary hunting lady, as Unga Bunga is still in the top lane, and now the lane assignments are normal again, with it stuck hitting level 7 there, still behind the Suitsu though.
Is it telling of this game how different the build path is for the Sivir? We saw in the last game going for that static shiv early, being stuck on a BF sword for so long. On this one, going to be going straight towards the IE.
Yeah, and that call is also going to probably mean that you're going to get an early Zeal item. Nice investment there, because she can actually afford it here. And again, the late game from the Plymouth Armada is quite scary. The Echo and the LeBlanc not nearly as... if they stay ahead, that is, if they... You know, we saw them make some mistakes in the mid-game last series, where they were in a kind of a comfortable position, but then in the mid-game they made some errors here and there. If Egotistical and Cookie Infernal get to freely skill, the late-game AoE damage coming out from a Cassiopeia and Corki is just incredible.
14 minutes in, the turret plating has fallen off, and the Plymouth Armada find themselves with a 1,500 gold lead. This time they've made slight changes to their composition, not taking quite as dramatically a scaling composition, but we're going to see Asuisu dashing forward. He's got Corki for backup. Nami's a little bit further behind as we see the Glacial Pusher going to land. It's going to mean a back away in the end, despite Asuisu being the aggressor here. Egotistical just did not have the damage to follow it up.
Yeah, not a lot of mana either, and at this point in the game Corki is still quite mana hungry. If you want to do damage, not like one of the traditional ADCs would just at least autos do a lot of work. You really need to be able to spam those abilities to really put the hurt on your opponents. And yeah, we go back to the beginning of this game. It just started with it stuck getting off that level 2 gank against Cookie Inferno and Tsushimi that put a lot of pressure on them, and more importantly made it so much easier for Runner and Bombarding. We saw the previous game that Runner was actually able to match the opposing team bot lane quite well, even with the fact that Booster wasn't having a great game on Leona, dying a lot of times. Also, you're Leona, right? So if your team's behind, you're going to die a lot of times because you're trying to engage, but then you just get blown up. A Silent Sprinter out of nowhere deletes
You said
Tsushimi.
The word blown up, and Sprinter is like, yeah,
thank you.
I can do blown up. Yeah, why not?
He did that very well. Thank you, Sprinter, for the interruption.
Wow. LeBlancs in this series have been having a terrific time. Maybe this champion should be getting banned away a little bit more. Egotistical trying to step forward, trying to get the shutdown, but not going to be able to do it. Having gone for that Hex Drinker quite early, it's just delaying the Triforce.
It is indeed, and that means that as we see that maybe you get the kill, but then again he might have died like 3 or 4 more times had he not had the threat of that lifeline on the Hex Drink. Silent Sprinter really wants to go in here apparently. Has some backup available to himself as the Rift Herald does get taken down there by Itstuck, and will be given to him as well. Post 40 minutes, but if we get an engagement here, we might still see that Rift Herald come down mid.
One of the first times today we haven't seen the Herald leading to a series of kills for one team or the other. Instead, it's just going to be picked up. It's in the pocket of Itstuck, who's walked into the mid lane as it stands, hasn't popped it down just yet, and Shelly will be making an appearance a little bit later on.
Yeah, they want to take their time with it, but with the Civ, it's so easy to push through, because looking at the wave clear, something we haven't really talked about, but with the Cassio and the Corki, you do have a lot of ways to just, you know, even the corrosive charge from the Boomga, to just hang back and let the wave crash into you, CS it up, and here comes the Rift Herald. Are they not going to, like, I see some question mark pings. I feel like there was a little bit of a miscommunication there for the team, as they're like, now the wave is gone and now they go for the charge. I don't know if they can get a lot more out of this. And this feels like a waste of a Rift Herald, especially considering the fact that they just picked it up, so there was no need there.
With those question mark pins, I've got to wonder whether or not he's done the old jungling classic of thinking he's putting down a ward and then, nuts. Speaking of nuts, Shashimi in a lot of trouble as Sprinter picks up a kill, the 4th of the game. Urgot does manage to take down Echo on the back of it, and Itstuck is going to fall down and get Sprinter as well. That's a massive shutdown goal going over to the Urgot. He is by far the biggest member of his team. He is 3-0-0, and he is chasing down Elite Hazard. Manages to get the flip before the knockout comes in on top of Unga Bunga. It's going to be egotistical on the backside. He has not got the Trinity Force completed, but he's still got a decent bit of damage. Flash is going to come in from Elite Hazard, trying to stop Unga Bunga from chasing him down, and is just about going to be able to get to safety. A lot of his team was not as lucky though.
Elite Hazard has a kill-death ratio of 0-0-0, which I think is just hilarious. Because it's not like, no, but legitimately, it's not like we've not had the... I have not had the idea that Elite Hazard is just continuously just off in his own world and top lane. I feel like he's really kind of doing stuff, he's impacting game.
He's been in so many fights.
Oh, this is... yeah, you can't just do that. Like, you are so low. Siva has just finished their Infinity Edge, and she's showing it here. This is so greedy coming out from the Stratford Spartans. They really wanted this Mountain Drake, but Synapse Run is just going to shred through them.
Shashimi is going to drop down. The Dragon goes down. It is secured by the Smite of Asuisu, but he is almost certainly going to drop down, flashing over, trying to find the blast going. One more auto attack will do it as Itstuck throws out the Time Winder, but it's not quite enough to catch on. But guess who's here? It's your man Synapse Sprinter. He gets his 5th kill of the game. He's got a CS lead. He's got 5 kills. He's got a Loons and Echo, and he gives 0 of that thing.
And the Dragons are just completely different this game. 2 Infernals, or the next one will be an Inferno as well, 2 Mountain Dragons. But again, like, Stratford Spartans, we saw the same mistake from Armada last game, where you're not in the position with your items currently, with your spikes on your hero, where you can contest that Mountain Dragon. Or more importantly, you can go for it, but then once they know, once Runner is there with his just finished IE, you just need to back off.
Beautiful Zenith Blade from Bombarding. He dashes in. Cookie Inferno completely caught out. There are more boomerangs being thrown than in an Australian gift shop. And now we have got the team of the Stratford Spartans trying to defend their base. Unga Bunga, who has done so much solid work for his team, just managing to push 4PL back by himself, throws down the Fear Beyond Depth. Isn't going to really need it though, because he's already picked up the kill onto Leona. Meanwhile, Itstuck dashing himself away, not wanting to give away another kill in this game. By far, Itstuck's best performance in this series.
I'm still shocked by the fact that once you get into an Australian gift shop, you just start throwing boomerangs around. That seems like really disrespectful to the shop owner, but let's not get into that.
You've got to try them out, though. I mean, how do you know which one's for you if you're not having
That is true. That is true. You just need to give him a whirl, but maybe outside of the shop, Greyhard. All jokes aside, what I love here is the fact that Armada is pushing the advantage, as we saw the Spartans do last game. They're not really sitting on the laurels and just waiting it out. They realize the fact that they're incredibly strong right now, and they make good use of that. We see some over-aggression here and there. Elite Hazard still has a 0-0-0 scoreline, which I think is still hilarious. But as I was saying, the Spartans are not respecting the fact that they haven't hit that power spike yet. Corki in that fight, when they went for the Mountain Dragon, right, did not have the Trinity Force available. Cookie Inferno didn't have an item finished yet. As Shashimi is going to be in real, that means that damage from the decimating smash.
0, no more Marines, because Elite Hazard has got himself his first kill, and now he finds himself in trouble. He might be adding 1 to the death total as well. He already used the Unstoppable Onslaught, and with the Fear Beyond Death having been challenged, it's just not quite enough. Synapse Sprinter here to defend his top lane and dashes himself forward, trying to get yet more kills. He is putting down so much damage, and Solar Flare is going to drop down on top of Urgot's head. It's going to be Echo and Leona both picking themselves up a kill as the APC Cassiopeia is dropped down as well. Sejuani will fall as well, and with the jungler and almost everybody else on the Stratford Spartans dead, the Plymouth Armada turn to the Baron.
They can just Baron, because why not? The jungler's dead. Egotistical is nowhere to be found. You have a Sivir who Doesn't do it as fast as some of the other AD carries that we might see. This is a little bit wonky though. I would like for them to go with it with everyone. Leona can really be tanking that. Egotistical coming in, there is a teleport from Elite Hazard, and that should secure it. Stuck needs to be careful, he's not going to take it out, use the Chrono Shift there. And there is the package.
That's going to be the package into the Valkyrie as Egotistical goes in, then out of the pit, does manage to take down
That's
its
Smite gone.
And suddenly the jungler is gone, and this does mean that the Plymouth Armada can't just do the Baron. Real misplays coming in from the Armada there.
And this is the power spike. We've been waiting for the Triforce on the Corki, and I keep getting interrupted when I want to make a point about that Mountain Drake fight, because it was such an overextension from the Spartans as Sign-Up Sprinter overextends here and just gets blown up, and Greyhead loses his mind right next to me, but I still want to make my point. I find it unbelievable that they try to fight with an Infinity at Sivir up until like right before they hit all the big spikes, right before the Seraph's Embrace is finished, right before the Triforce is finished, right before the Knight's Vow is finished. Like, all these items could completely turn around that fight, but instead they just stand there on Mountain Dragon. Synapse Runner doesn't really get contested either, just starts throwing away boomerangs, and everything following up to that has just been a result of that single fight.
And Egotistical went from being pretty much zero in this game with the Corki that was arguably a questionable pick in the current meta, to actually, between the Valkyrie, the package, and then that last kill, getting the shutdown onto Sprinter, he became the hero of the scene when really he shouldn't have had any opportunity to be.
I know. It was a very nice play there from Ego coming out there, going for the Valkyrie package. Delivering it and taking it stuck down. Also, it's stuck tanking too long. This also goes back to bombarding.
It's a theme.
Bombarding, taking, like, going for the vision, which is fine, but then Wade with the Baron, because it stuck was tanking it, and it was just really easy to take him down there.
We've seen it in the LEC recently where the Blast Cone has sort of been the enemy of various teams, and usually it's the support who screws over other members of their team. However, this time it was actually Bombarding who got screwed over, because we saw, I believe it stuck dashing over, then using the Blast Cone back, and that meant actually it's kind of his own fault that Leona couldn't come back to tank.
Yeah, that's true. Because it stuck could have just dashed through if they had some patience.
Never blame the supports. You've got to show the love to the supports.
Yeah, I know. I feel like support players are... everyone's always talking about the big players, usually like the AD carries, the mid laners, and all that, as we see the Infernal Drake, and this is an important one for either team. Plymouth Armada wants to pick it up because they want to keep that lead intact, and with the Spartans in their current state, I don't mind them backing off it. I don't think they can really contest it with the position they're in.
Zero contest, and in a few more minutes there will be a third Infernal Dragon on the table. For the second time today we're going to see this, and again it's one team securing all of them, and Plymouth Armada's damage is just getting escalated. Morellonomicon, Luden's Echo, Sork Shoes, and also we've got that Dark Seal on the LeBlanc.
Indeed, it is looking rough for the Spartans here. They're looking for the next power spike or a Baron overextension from the Armada. Those are basically the two opportunities. We know that Itstuck does like to go aggressive on his objectives, likes to tank a lot of damage. The Echo, I gotta agree with him though. Like the Echo, I've played Echo myself as well, and because of Chrono Shifts, you just feel completely invulnerable.
Oh, here goes Unkabunga. He's not been letting anybody feel invulnerable in this game, but he's been constantly throwing down the damage. The Black Cleaver is good, but it's not good enough because Itstuck takes him down. Leona picks up a kill onto the Sejuani, and now with the jungler dead on the side of Stratford Spartans, yet again Plymouth Armada are in a position where surely this time they can Baron.
Itstuck and bombarding the two of them, just completely zoning Egotistical, as we hear Graham make a very nice impression of what happens to Sashimi there as Cookie tries to go in. This time it can't be contested, I should say, but this goes back to Itstuck and bombarding, doing a really nice job of zoning the actual damage dealers on the side of the Stratford Spartans, and then simultaneously Synapse Runner just couldn't be reached. You saw how fast the health bars melted there. It's also because Asuitsu didn't really go for, say, a Warmorks that's customary in Sejuani, instead opting for a more team-oriented build, which I quite like, considering the fact that he has the Corki in the mid lane. But still, that does mean in situations like this, just straight up when you need to just tank damage, it really shows. He just gets shredded down so incredibly quickly, and with Unkabunga and Suitsu being taken down, then all of a sudden it's just a Chrono Shift from Itstuck to finish the business, and the Baron gets picked up if for the Plymouth Armada.
So 25 minutes in and a 9,000 gold lead to the side of Plymouth Armada. They find themselves 1-0 down this series. They want to take the series to its conclusion, to the final game, and right now they are doing everything they possibly can to take us there.
And I love the LeBlanc from Sprinter. It's one of his most played champions together with the Kassadin. But what's interesting to me is, and knowing what we know, that the Kassadin and LeBlanc have such completely antithetical playstyles. We see Unkabunga get completely damaged there, needs to flash to stay alive. Like, they couldn't be more apart. And in the pool of Sprinter is also something like the Fizz, which is more in the same vein, where you can get the roams, you can get the aggression off. The fact that they went for the Kassadin twice in a row is something that I think if in the best of 5 the Armada doesn't do that, then all of a sudden this is looking like a completely different series.
Cookie Inferno has not been able to pick up a single kill in this game, gets himself caught out, gets deleted before he can help in the fight, and now it's Stuck managed to get the kill on stage 1 as well. This is a 5 versus 3 with Baron empowered minions slowly coming into different lanes. There are none in the mid lane, however, and so Armada are going to have to turn their attention to the top lane. Sprinter takes a little bit of a questionable path, gets himself very slightly caught out, tries to turn the damage back onto Egotistical, but he throws the Ignite down. It's going to be Unga Bunga who manages to get that kill onto Sprinter. Now without the long here, can we see Spartans make some kind of turnaround? Sivir takes down the Urgot, and Echo takes down the Corki and says, no, there will be no turnaround. We've got the Baron, we're going to push into the inhibitor turret.
Yeah, because It's Stuck went from being 3-3 to 7-3, has the Lich Bane finished, and that is just a terrifying Echo to play against. The double Infernal really helping as well. And Silent's Runner again opting for the defensive build with Defensive Dancer, just wanting that lifeline to make sure, because he realizes how big. I want to see the damage charts after, because I feel like Silent's Runner is just leading the damage charts with like such an insane amount, because he hasn't really necessarily doesn't have the most amount of kills, but like his consistency, even in the game that they lost, is really admirable to me.
It's been a really, really strong performance from both teams in certain ways. I mean,
yeah,
for Armada to come back and to sort of to lose out in the way
after
they did in game 1,
yeah,
to turn it around and to adapt and to really build on that game is fantastic. But actually to the Spartans, despite the fact they are the ones who find themselves falling behind, they have played some quite clever League of Legends at times.
And let's not forget how devastating that last game was. The game that is in the future at this point in time.
A game that we have no idea what happens.
So for those of you tuning in, we've already seen the future. We have seen the third game in this best of 3, but we still wanted to show you the road to that final game. Because let's be honest, that final game looked as one-sided, not as one-sided as Invincibles versus Spawn, but it wasn't that far off. And this is looking like such an incredible game coming out from the Armada.
Well, there are 2 inhibitors now down. There are super minions crashing into the top and the bot side, and it is all on the side of Armada to just simply walk down to the bot lane and do this the evil genius style, take everything on the map and slowly bleed the Spartans out.
Yeah, but they're going to take that time and say, hey, this is a third Infernal Drake. We've heard Infernal Drakes are quite good. If we take it now, then that might probably be nice. Do we even need it? Are we ever going to pick up an Elder? I don't think so, but whatever, let's just pick it up. The next one is a Cloud Dragon. We don't care about that one. We can just leave that be if we haven't ended the game at that point. As you say, 5 men going bot side. Sprint is just off in his own, and why wouldn't he, with almost a Rabadon's finish, the 2 nearly large rods, the Morellas and the Ludens. If anyone's coming even remotely close and tries to wave clear, if Egotistical sets even the slightest step too far forward, you can bet that he gets blown up in a split second.
Final inhibitor turret is going to drop. We saw this in the last game where we had, well, we didn't have a pause, but what we did have was we had the side of the Spartans sieging the base of the Armada, and the Armada sort of made quite a dramatic last stand, managing to almost entirely obliterate the Spartans in that game. If there is some kind of misstep coming out of the Armada, it could delay the Armada from taking this game to, you know, push us to that, at this point, inevitable third game in the series. For those of you who maybe are tuning in late and are confused as to why we're talking and saying, oh yeah, we know what happened in the last game, once this game is over, you know, get on the past broadcast, check out what happened, because actually Game 3 was pretty exciting at times. And in terms of when you'd watch it, you want to go and watch Game 1 of these. But
because Game 1 is Game 3. We're doing a Memento style block. We're trying something new out here at the Belong Leading Across, where we try to go.
Yeah,
while we try to go for to try to confuse you, the audience, of like going for different time skips, and like instead of doing a best of 3 in the normal order, where you go Game 1, Game 2, Game 3. We went with Game 3, and then we do a flashback and show how we got to Game 3, which I think is quite innovative when you really think about it. Right?
It's sort of a Coen Brothers way of doing it. We're jumping all across the map.
We see the different storylines and like how they came to be, which gives more context to them and really allows you to get a good feel for the characters and like how they interact with one another.
But here and now in Game 2, the way it's interacting is Armada are just absolutely destroying the base of the Spartans. They've just taken the Founding Inhibitor. There's a pause for whatever reason, and probably some kind of disconnection or lag.
Yeah, Sashimi disconnected us, so I'm going to assume that he's going to be back quite soon.
Yeah, and Sashimi he had such a great first game. I mean, he landed pretty much every binding. He had his Morgana banned away from him. Now he's had to play the Nami. He's 1-7-5 in this game. Such a difference to the first game.
Indeed, on the Nami not really having the same success as we see a lot of damage coming in on Hunter, but there's no follow-up. Imagine if the rest of the team was on in there.
Somehow Cookie Inferno is just about managing to live. He does eventually go down to the Leona, but he's put down a lot of damage onto Synapse Run and onto Bombarding, and there's still a chance here for the Plymouth Armada to drop down as the Spartans are looking for kills. Corki gets one onto the Echo, dashes forward, but Sivir trays back and takes down the Urgot. Double kill now for the Urgot as Sivir drops to the ground, and it's a triple kill because Leona is gone as well. This could well be a quadra kill. It is going to be the quadra, but while this is going on, Synapse Sprinter is trying to take down the base, manages to take down the Nami, but here comes the Corki. He's looking for his pentakill. Only Synapse Sprinter is standing in between him and that wonderful glory he would get, but there's the dash away. The Mimic is going to help him as well, and it's going to be Synapse Sprinter managing to live. Quadra kill for Egotistical, but can he clear these super minions? There's so many, and Synapse Sprinter still around. He might be about to turn his attention to this final inhibitor that's so very low.
I don't think that inhibitor can be saved. There we go.
It's gone.
Single auto attack. It can in fact not be saved. And I agree with you. When we look at the trajectory of this game, I feel like there's a couple of things. There is the drafts coming out from the Spartans making a similar mistake of what we saw in the first game, going for the Nami, which with the Ardent Sensor is going to do very well on Egotistical, as we can see there, but you're also kind of leaving Cookie Inferno on the Cassiopeia to kind of just, you know, like leave it to dry, because what is she going to do? She's not receiving as much support as you might expect in the situation. And she's still doing a lot of damage there, as did Ego. Like, the damage is there, but the front line and just in general the strat response are so far behind due to these early to mid game fights when they didn't really respect what the Plymouth Armada got. They didn't really respect the item spikes on the side of Runner and didn't keep in mind when their own items were going to be finished and like the positioning that they took. And as a result, their front line, no matter how good Egotistical and Cookie Inferno are going to do in terms of damage, just gets completely demolished. And look at the itemization as well. We have the Righteous Glory, we have the Knight's Vow, which are good items but not pure tank stats. And because of that, they just get chewed through by Synapse Sprinter, by Runner, and by Stuck, who is doing a considerable amount of damage himself.
But Moritz, as we see that Baron going down uncontested in this second game of the best of 3 series, just how many times have we seen in the past, you know, in competitive play, a pause happens for whatever reason, and then on the back of it, somehow there's this incredible play comes out of the team that up until that point had looked dead to the world.
Usually those teams have Nexus turrets, or like any turrets whatsoever, because I feel like in a lot of cases that's what really can turn it around. All jokes aside, the Stratford Spartans, they still have incredible damage. Corki has just hit his Infinity Edge. We see that Cookie Inferno is still a little bit further away from the power spike with only a needlessly large rod. Had he also had another item, might have been better. But if Egotistical can come up huge in this fight, then he's going to be fine. But look at what he's facing. It's Stuck and Synapse Sprinter know that. They're just going to dive right on top of the two of them. Then, as long as Runner stays alive and you're not chewing through Elite Hazard or Bombarding, then it's just so hard. The comp from Armada at this point is so easy to play just because of how strong they are.
But looking to what we know eventually happens in Game 3 as well, I think it's really important for the Spartans that they had that one fight, just like the Armada had it in the last game. They had that sort of morale boosting. We managed to ace them, we managed to take them down. The Spartans have had it now leading to Game 3, but this is going to be the fight that leads us to Game 3, because in goes Elite Hazard, down goes Sashimi, down goes, that's not Science Sprinter, that's Cookie Inferno. Everybody's dead apart from Egotistical. He drops down to the LeBlanc as well. The game ends at 32 minutes. One game all in this series that will eventually end 2-1 to the Stratford Spartans. And Moritz, that's how we got there.
And that's how we got there, Greyheart. And it was a pleasure of finding out this journey with you, because like you guys, we just came in the third game and we saw the Stratford Spartans just, if you haven't watched it yet, we're not going to spoil too much, but let's say both teams learned from their lessons, but the Spartans learned a little bit better, and it was a relatively one-sided game. But just the life that we saw there in Plymouth Armada, I think if these teams face off again, if they might at one point or another, is really going to have a big impact on how they look back at this game and what they take away from it. Because as we saw, if either team gets the advantage in the early to mid game, then they're going to do quite well, because neither team really knows how to play from behind. I feel like with people like It's Stuck being out of position a couple of times, the Plymouth Armada in, say if you play 10 games, in like 6 of them, they're going to be on the back foot. In 4 of them, the other team is going to be on the back foot. But both of these teams, once they have an advantage, they played very well. And once they're behind, they have kind of a rough go. And it is difficult to play from behind.
It certainly is. And in this final series that we're watching tonight, was there a particular player who across the 3 games sort of stuck out to you as the MVP for either team?
I'm going to go with Egotistical. I feel like his LeBlanc performance was incredible in
two
game.
LeBlanc
Exactly, yeah, in game 1 and 3. game 3 and 1 in terms of how they actually happened, but game 1 and 3 for how they happened for us. And his Corki was really like the lifeline of that play in the second game. Like, it was the Corki getting the quadra there. It was the Corki doing the damage, and like being like a glimmer of hope in a game that was all but lost.
Yeah. And in this Valentine's Day special here for the Arena Clash, no love was lost between the teams. We saw the Manchester Swarm being beaten 2-0 by the Invincible.
We saw the Lovers Lane, and maybe maybe Sashimi just was like, guys, it's Valentine's Day, and
such a sweetheart.
I'd really like to honour that to you guys who are sitting in the studio instead of spending Valentine's Day with your loved ones.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've done exactly that.
Oh, isn't that heartwarming, folks?
Alrighty, so once again, it's been fantastic to be here. My name has been Stanley. Well, it still is Stanley Greatheart Barker, regardless of whether I'm going or not. And I'm pretty sure that yours is Moritz Chronicler Musen. And across the split, I'm definitely going to get that wrong at least once.
Well, you haven't so far, and I'm very grateful for that, Greyheart.
Alrighty, thank you to everybody who's been tuning in. A very happy Valentine's to every single one of you. But for now, good night.